Friday night, turn that sound up. CrossFire. That's right, guys. 7 o'clock in New York. Let's go. I got to be honest with you. Great show for you guys tonight. It's been a really great week. A lot of gaming. Yeah, a lot of gaming topics. And, you know, shout out to all the games that are coming out. I don't know. I hope you guys got more sand in your hourglass than I do, because I don't know how we're going to end up making this work out. So many games, so little time. That being said, I just want to let everybody know as they're kind of shuffling in, please tweet it out. Let everybody know that we are live. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Shout out to, I'm going to say it wrong, right here. Probably saying it wrong. Right here. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, buddy. I appreciate that. The numbers are going up. Listen, I love doing the show. I was just talking to one of the panel members. The thing I love, I've always loved shock jock radio, sports radio, loud, obnoxious radio in the morning, and that's what we get to do here in gaming, and it's a lot of fun. So I love every single one of you guys for being here. I see Game Knobs here. I see JC 2013. The great Jimmy Harrison was here earlier. As you guys can see right now, we have 4 people on the panel. We've got another 4 joining us before the hour is up. It's going to be a stacked panel, so don't you guys worry about it. It's going to be a stacked panel. Looking forward to all these topics. We had some events this week. But before we get into that, just take a look at that outstanding description. Will you look at that? That thing, that's an A+, at least in 9th grade. Look at that. Look at that. That's unbelievable. I wrote that myself, okay? Enjoy that. Enjoy that. Right above that is the join button. If you guys would be so kind to join the channel, it would mean the world to me. I hang out with these folks every single week. We talk behind the scenes, and it really does help the channel grow. And I like to take a minute in the beginning of every show to show my love and admiration for each one of these folks. Let me say one by one each name: the great Sir X Man, JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, TrueWiddy, Alphonso Carter, BRAP, who's going to be joining us very shortly, Damion, pardon me, Damion. I took 2 names and put them together. I've never done that before. That's actually hard to do. Really proud of myself. The great Jimmy Harrison, Andy Hart, Red Hood 420, Hamsolo05, Rob Jones, Night Ripper 7, Totodope, ThumbsThumbs, JC 2013, who's here, Passive Prophet, Lord Metroid, RabbitGotTheGun, Fastbender, Archwar Angel, Biggity08, Sonyverse, Slow-Mo Backs Up, which I had an outstanding time last night. The Great Gaming Forte is going to be joining us very, very shortly, but Slow-Mo and Forte invited me on the DPS last night. Go over and check that out after this show. That was a 3-hour podcast. We got done around midnight Eastern time. Unbelievable show. Henry Heck, our new member. Welcome, Henry. Silent Merc, who's back. Silent Merc, great to have you here. Our Major Mooch Maniacs. Oh, another new member, AD. Shout out to AD. Capone 5150. Capone, if you're in the chat, I want to make sure you join permanently. BMO Careful, love the name. Leah 52-year-old gamer, X Abbott, Truth Serum, RPG 88, Julian Johnson, your boy Roy, Scolari's brothers, Smokes 901, DC Gaming. Just talking to DC before the show. We're going to get DC on the show. Shout out to DC. Miko, Gaming with Persona, and Jay Bari, who are back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. What's up, PlayStation? That's how I start my Saturday. That's how I recommend you guys start yours. The great tactical gamer, Danelle Brown, That Guy's Mini, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades. Let's take a minute. I've known Brian for a very long time, probably upwards of 9 years. It's his birthday. Shout out to Delirium Blades. Happy birthday to you, buddy. I really appreciate all the support over the years. And our VIP Mooch Maniacs, General Thad, Ape, Raji, Domino Zero, the Wise Old Gamer, and our honorable mentions. You're out there with that food, water, toilet. Please come home. Shadow Assassin, Supreme Samurai, 4-Star General, Dex Flex, and our forever Mooch Maniacs, the great Longshot 316, and the great Optimus Code. Guys, we have an outstanding show for you. I see Powler 29, Mega Cloud, Mary Wilcox. I like to give a little shout out to everybody. I don't do it enough. Ola Mocha, I see all you guys out there. Please, guys, tweet it out. Let everybody know that we are live. It's going to be an outstanding show. Let's get to this amazing panel. And then as people shuffle in on the panel, I'll introduce them one by one. Listen, this first guest is something very special. I don't care who you think you can get on a show. I am more excited that this gentleman is on the show tonight than if we had Phil Spencer and Yoshida on at the same time. I don't care. The great J-Main 518. I can't wait. I've been trying to get Jay on this show for about 2 years. He's here with us tonight. Jay from Good Gaming. Jay, welcome to the show, buddy. It is outstanding to have you here with us.
Oh man, dog, it's definitely a pleasure to be here. This man's not lying. Mooch is one of the most consistent guys I've ever met in my life. Not even just on this side of Twitter, social media, in my life. In fact, I think to this day it's been a year since I appeared on this platform. When I had to leave abruptly due to some personal reasons. So I had to make sure I came back, and I guess no better time than a year later, right?
Absolutely, Jay. That's the 1 year anniversary. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of controversy, a lot of topics going on this week. And I couldn't think of a better week to have you back on the show. So, Jay, outstanding to have you with us tonight. It's going to be phenomenal. Sit back, relax for a second, because you're going to be put on the hot seat. I got the great TCMF back on the show. I have to space out my visits with TC. TC takes topics, and he's got lawyers that look at it. And then he lets me know if he approves. There is no ABK tonight, folks. TC said, I'll be there with bells on. So, TC, welcome back to the show, buddy. Great to have you here tonight.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to talk about the games. It's been a pretty solid week.
That's
I'm
right.
pretty sure everybody else here is excited as well. Before the show started, we were talking about that just a little bit. I'm excited to talk about it here.
TC, you've been all over the place on Twitter, buddy. You are blowing up. I mean, I know you have a great YouTube channel, so bravo to you there. But I don't think people realize your Twitter feed is absolutely on fire, dude. I don't know where you get some of that artwork, and I don't want to know. Okay, that's for you to know. It's for you to know and me to like the tweet. Okay, that's the way it is. So TC, outstanding work on both ends there, buddy. I appreciate it. And then this next gentleman here, outstanding, a gamer through and through. Right around the same age as me, been playing forever, and tonight when we have games to talk about, he says, I gotta get on the show. I said, let me tell you something. Nothing like having another fellow Italian guy, and that's what he is. The guy. The guy's on the show. Guy, welcome back to the show, buddy. Well, not welcome back. Your first time. I gotta tell you, great to have you here.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here and talk games with fellow Italian paisan over here, and try to spur some arguments and get this show on fire.
Oh, buddy, it's going to be great. Like I say, guys, go ahead and hit that like button, tweet it out, let people know we are live. I see Robert Smith. He says, what's up? Spider-Man's got the talk of the town. But before we get to Spider-Man, Jay, I want to go here. And, usually I would have something a little bit more spicy when it comes to CrossFire, but we're going to kind of save the spice to the middle of the show. I like to keep the meat and potatoes there to keep the audience a little riled up. But let's talk about the state of play, Jay. So, listen, state of play comes out. We hear it's coming out. We hear third party. We hear third party, and we hear indies. And Jay, I usually will take a clip and say, oh, this is what Jay was saying, so I have it for my notes here. I didn't have it. But Jay, a lot of times you're very vocal on Twitter. You'll say, oh, here we go again. Here comes more of that bullshit. So hear me out, right? so Jay, when you saw it, I went into this thinking I went in with low expectations. I was just thinking we're going to see some indies, and they're just going to keep pushing us off till we get to next year's big show. But Jay, when you saw what was out there, okay, and we're talking about, we saw Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We saw Avatar. I've even got a couple of things here. Helldivers 2, the DLC to Tales of Arise, Resident Evil, the DLC that's coming out, as well as the VR stuff. Of course, Spider-Man. I mean, the list goes on and on. Of course, even Avatar kind of took people by surprise. And I know that we're going to laugh at it, and you don't have to talk about it right away, Jay. But realistically, even baby steps that people are going to absolutely say is comical, I guarantee you that is a killer on Twitch. It's going to stream like crazy. So, Jay, what was your take before the show, after the show, and as we sit here today after you got a chance to digest it?
Yo, that baby steps game, that definitely threw me for a loop. But when you talk about Twitch streams and big streamers, I can definitely see something like that taking off. I'm not going to be touching it. But I could see something like that taking off. But prior to the show, or even it happening, a lot of times when Sony talks about the expectations prior to it, you gotta take them forward. And which made me a little bit surprised when I saw a game like Spider-Man there, because they didn't mention anything about like first party games being there. They kind of said the focus was going to be on indies, third party partners, and VR.
That's right.
The third party partners portion got me excited, because when I look at something like that, I think about a game like Rise of Ronin, which is a game that Sony might be publishing, but it's not a first party developed game. A game like Stellar Blade, aka Stellar Yams, which wasn't at the show, and is a game that I'm actually worried about now at this point, because it was supposed to come out this year, and after last year, or ever since it got to its official name, the shit has been radio silent. Like we haven't heard nothing about the game. So now I'm worried about Stellar Yams, and I'm hoping that it is one of those games that they showed us that's not really real. And because a lot of times we see these games from Korean developers
Yes.
or these Chinese developers that it's like, hold on, this shit kind of look too good to be true.
Right.
And I just don't want that to be the case because they're doing some things in that game where I want to praise them for. You know what I'm saying? A lot of great physics is what I would say.
Yes.
So going into the show, I definitely, have my expectations in check. But I thought it was actually it was okay. I thought it was an okay state of play because they met expectations. A little bit disappointed by Stellar Blade, but I thought they exceeded in some areas by showing us more of Spider-Man and Insomniac Games getting on Front Street and talking about the new not the new open world, but the expanded open world of New York and some of the activities and stuff like that they got going on. So I liked it. I did. But I think with these kind of state of plays or these things, you're not gonna get the big first party blowout. That's usually
Right.
for the showcases. That's kind of where my expectations were. So that's why I wasn't too disappointed and not seeing the first party stuff because I don't think that stuff is going to be here.
No, and I'm glad you said that, Jay. To be honest with you, we know what Sony's gonna do. Nintendo really does put their big IP into their directs, but PlayStation does
Right.
not. They clearly have two distinct different shows: the showcase and they have their state of plays. But let's be honest, some state of plays are a little bit more lackluster. I thought this one delivered, and for under 30 minutes, and it was just game after game after game after the intro and the outro. I was thoroughly impressed because again, I went in low expectations, and when we saw baby steps, the first few seconds, I'm like, what? As you can see, it's on screen right now, right? It's legitimately something you go, what is this? I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I laughed my ass off. I was laughing quite hard when the guy goes, grab the grappling hook. Just use the grappling hook.
Right.
And the language, everything in it, I thought was awesome. That guy, what do you think about when it comes to it? Were you excited about hearing that it was gonna be third party and indie, and then what you got from them? They even sprinkled the little Spider-Man in there.
So yeah, I mean, watching the showcase, watching the state of play for me, it hit everything that I wanted it to hit. Right, like the minute I saw Kate Sith, I was like, oh my god, it's over. This is amazing. As far as
why do you say
Spider-Man
that?
2, I definitely dug the fact that they were showing less about a story and more about like all the intricate things that they've added to the game and how it's going to be different. The suits and the way you can modify the suits and change them up, which is fucking awesome. I can't wait to just like dive deep into that whole entire section of the game. And yeah, I mean, it was a good show. It started off great. It ended on a high note, and even like with the Resident Evil DLC coming like next week, so they had their little like kind of like drops that they were doing.
Yep.
I mean, what more can you ask for? This is exactly what Sony should be doing every time they do shows like this. I went into it not to I kept my expectations in check, of course, because
Right.
I feel like that's the best thing to do as of recent with a lot of these shows. And doing that, I was completely floored. I was like, oh man, I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fan, as I know a lot of other people are.
Yes.
But when I saw just the summons and Kate Sith and oh man, it just I was like, I saw Vincent. The minute I saw Vincent, I was like, oh, this is gonna be this is what I'm talking about. So I was definitely I had a great time watching it, and yeah, I'm just Spider-Man. I'm trying to keep away from a lot of the story stuff because I don't want it to be spoiled for me. So I was glad that they didn't show any more. So
Right.
yeah, it hit every beat for me. It was great.
Shout out to you already said it, so let me give a great shout out. By the way, the super chat's working. It's a miracle. Shout out to Eric Z. He says Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks wicked. Can't wait. Thank you so much for that super chat, Eric. It means the world to me. It really was something. I got to tell you. And the Great Gaming Forte has joined us. Let me tell you guys something. For me, this is Christmas comes early. To have J-Main and Forte on the show, I'm sorry, but
Forte, what up?
Forte is here. I got to spend almost 4 hours with Forte last night, which was great. But yeah, Forte, I guess I'll go to you. Right after a great introduction, you got to go ahead and ask the man the question. Forte, we talked a bit about it yesterday, but I don't know how many people yesterday got to see the show. I got to tell you, what do you think? I mean, were you pleasantly surprised after a third party? Not rumor, but what we were kind of promised third party in indies, and we even got a little Spider-Man there. We got a little Final Fantasy. I mean, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Expectations were set, definitely like that. And I already seen enough of Spider-Man. I just need the game to come. It was all about Final
It's true.
Fantasy VII Rebirth. It was as soon as I saw it. Shout out to the Square Enix website for allowing me, because you know how those things sell out, to be able to get that. Except for our collectors, I was able to get my hands on one of those today
Ooh,
because they sold
all
out
right.
instantly yesterday. They popped up on the website today, so I got one of those. So I'm locked and loaded for that game when it comes out in early February, whenever the date is actually going to be. So I'm looking forward to that. We talked about it yesterday, Mooch. The Ghostbuster game actually looked really cool. They're really starting
Thank
to get me to want to go out and get this VR, mostly for my daughter for Resident Evil 4 remakes VR, because that looks really, really cool. So I like the VR offers that they're starting to show. You know, I wish they did they had a little bit more, but it's starting to get to the point where I'm starting to kind of be like, okay, I might have to just go ahead and fork out for the VR now, because it's stuff that I actually like on there too. I actually really like the little showcase they did for Helldivers.
Yes.
That was really cool. I like the co-op aspect that they showed off on it. I could take or leave the little, voices that they put over the videos, like they did with Rainbow Six so long ago. I'm like, come on, man, we already know this ain't real. Y'all just dubbed this, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I did like the gameplay they showed on that, and I don't know if it's me, but every time I see um Avatar, I get a little bit more excited because I actually am more and more interested in that game. It's December 7th, so it's like right in that little sweet spot of something that I was actually kind of looking forward to. And that game was never on my radar. I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, this game looks trash. But now it's starting to look a little bit better, and getting a little bit more information. So I think they picked a good slot of games that people are, not really anticipating. I mean, outside of Spider-Man, of course, but Final Fantasy was like a really big surprise because we didn't expect anything like exclusive from them, but they did say third party, but that's a little bit further out because they did say it was going to be stuff this year. And we know Final Fantasy ain't coming this year.
No.
The only thing we're missing is just a little bit more of an update on what's happening with first party, but they already addressed that. And I think everybody's pretty much just on pins and needles waiting for that to happen. If it's in a showcase or if it's going to be in another state of play, who knows? But I like what they showed. It was the one thing that they do really well and Nintendo do really well is they just show game after game after game.
Yep.
And it flows really well compared to what it used to be. Like state of plays used to be like, okay, what is this? Much talking, not enough gameplay. It's like they got rid of that part of it and they just say, okay, we're just gonna play you a game. So
you're right. I give
it high marks.
There used to be a voice that would come over in between each one and be like, and now this is from our third party indie. Yeah, they got rid of all that. They literally just go
when they did that.
Bang, bang, bang. They hit it right away. Now the great Chris Righteous is here, but I want to go to TC real quick and then we'll get to Chris. TC, you literally haven't stopped tweeting. I mean, I don't know. You must have Band-Aids on your thumbs. TC, listen, let's talk about some other games here. How about the Avatar game? I mean, everyone knows we're going to get into Spider-Man in a minute. I'm kind of saving Spider-Man to the end of this topic. But TC, the Avatar game, did that do anything for you?
Oh, I was already into the Avatar game when I first saw it and when we first started hearing about it. It looks like a I know people hate on the Ubisoft open world, but I haven't played, like, if you've played Far Cry and Assassin's Creed over and over and over and over, I haven't really touched Assassin's Creed in a long time. And the last Far Cry I really enjoyed was Far Cry 3. And I haven't really been in that Ubisoft-esque world. So Avatar looks right up my alley for that. And the rest of the showcase, I mean, the state of play obviously was, for me, you clearly have seen my tweets, has been good. I'm happy people here are mentioning VR because a lot of other people have just been focused on Final Fantasy or Spider-Man, which is understandable. But RE4 VR, that was one of the ones I was like, I hope that's there. It was one of the ones I was hoping that would be at the event, and it looks beautiful.
Yes, it does.
Ghostbusters looks good, but it's just like looking at RE4 and Ghostbusters. Obviously, don't put them together, but RE4 is going to be a highlight for me. And nobody really mentioned Ghost Runner. I'm playing the demo right now. I'm excited for Ghost Runner too. I don't know if any of you have played the first game.
I did.
And yeah, Ghost Runner 2 right now. I'm checking it out. It's pretty good, man. It's nice to get back into this vibe. And now they have a motorcycle, and the motorcycle adds a whole new situation to it. So I'm enjoying it. But outside of that, Helldivers 2 looked good. Spider-Man 2, obviously, we're going to talk about in a bit. That looked amazing. And I found out recently it was a 6-month-old build. I was
Yes.
Yeah, I just read that too, like a few hours ago. I seen that.
and I'm like, what? This well, it makes sense because they can't show you what's there right now because they still have to debug that and do that whole situation. So they show you a clean build from a while ago. But yeah, I'm excited to see how much better it's going to look. But it already looks amazing. It already did look amazing before.
TC, you said something that I really got to talk about. We've been kind of talking about it on the show now for many months, but I try to take a few weeks off of it. But you know, the one thing that I don't care for, TC, is I don't care for all a lot of the slander going on against PSVR 2. There is game after game after game being released on this device. And I don't have the actual number here. If any of you guys know, please shout it out. But it was number in the top 10 for accessories. Again, the PSVR 2 still selling. Yeah. And you know, the great gaming Forza said it. He said, I'm gonna spend $550 on this thing. Maybe if it's even just for Resident Evil 4. But go ahead, TC.
The thing about it is for what Sony needs. So me, I love VR. So I got into VR with PSVR 1 and it was like crack. I was pretty much on that since day one. And then I got the Quest 2 and then I got PSVR 2. So I know I'm in that realm. I know the studios and what they can produce outside of the major studios. So like there's a lot of people that didn't know about The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. They saw the Walking Dead and they assumed it was some cheap, you know, TV license game. But no, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is one of the best games out there. And recently I'm playing CrossFire, Sierra Squad. CrossFire, the brand itself was tarnished because of that shooter that people played last year. Crossfire something.
Crossfire X, I think, right?
Yeah.
Crossfire X. It was tarnished, and people were worried about this and how good this would be. Crossfire Sierra Squad is amazing. It's an addiction because the thing about it is they packed it with so much content, and the developers are just constant updates. Every single day you're looking at their Twitter and they have a new update for the game, patches, fixes, stuff like this left and right. It has a co-op campaign, horde mode, 50 missions for the co-op, and the campaign itself is like like 4 or 5 hours long or something like that. But the co-op missions will take you a long time to finish, and the gunplay is amazing. And of course, we had Synapse not too long ago. There's a bunch, and we're gonna have a bunch of games later this year for VR with Bulletstorm, the Masquerade.
Bulletstorm looked fire. Yeah,
it does. And Arizona Sunshine too. If hopefully we can see more of that. I've seen some VR creators post up that they played it recently, and some people have put it up against Half-Life Alyx. Now the thing about that, I will say, there's some games that people put against Half-Life Alyx. Vertigo, I haven't played that, but Vertigo 2 is also coming to PSVR 2, and people have put that and Arizona Sunshine against Half-Life Alyx.
Okay.
I don't know how good that claim is. I haven't played Half-Life Alyx, but I'm excited to check both those games out. And of course, we have Madison VR coming out later this year, Ghostbusters. We have Phasmophobia as well. There's so many games coming out with VR, but the thing about it is people pay attention to those big line games, and I don't blame them because they're not into the VR space like some other people. So they see Resident Evil 8 Village, VR, GT7, VR, Horizon, VR, RE4, VR. The brands they know, and that's what gets them in. Sony just needs to do more of that.
Yeah, that's really, really well said. Actually, I completely agree with it. There's a lot of content out there. You can't. Let's put it this way: if anyone's on the fence right now, and you're like, "Listen, I want to get it, but I don't know if there's enough games." There's a ton of games. That's not going to be your problem. Now, whether or not there's a game out there for you, I can't tell you that. But the experience, the immersion, it's all there, and they're full games. This isn't like PSVR 1. We have now entered the next era in VR. I didn't care for PSVR 1. I didn't care for any VR back in the day. They were more experiences. Now they are full-fledged games. That's a big deal. The great Chris Righteous and Basement Radio Arcade Podcast have joined us. I told you guys, we're going to go from 4. We're going to just multiply. We're going to double down here. The great Andy Hart in the chat, he says, don't sleep on Lies of P. Game of the Year nominee. Andy, we're going to talk. That's a strong one.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that.
Well, listen, guy, I got to be honest with you. That may be the case. We are going to talk about it, Andy. E. Kim, he says, favorite part of State of Play was Tales of Arise DLC. Knew about everything else, but that was a great surprise. Play the game if you haven't. I really need to, game. I have not played that
Me
yet.
too.
You
Same
know?
here. I was just on the timeline talking about how I need to get to check that out. That DLC looked great. I'm like, damn. I was even confused about what game that was at first. I thought it was Grand Blue Fantasy
Yeah.
Relink for a quick second. And then
Yep.
my whole chat is screaming at me like, no, that's Tales of Arise. You gotta play that. I'm like, damn, that shit look good.
Shout out, and shout out to Slow-Mo Backslap, last night's DPS. He was a big fan, I believe, of Tales of Arise. He said the same thing. He said, Mooch, if you haven't played it, you really have to. The great Donnell Brown is here. He says, if your football team did not score a point last week, you could please leave the show now. Well, you know, that's equivalent to hashtag who's yelling. Donnell's like, if your team hasn't scored a point, I'd have to see my way out. Let me tell you something. The Giants are going to win in Arizona. If there's any Arizona fans out there, we're not going to talk sports, but we're going to win this week. I guarantee it. We're going to be 1-1. That being said, Chris Righteous. Chris, listen, Chris, do you notice, and maybe it's something Mooch just does strategically, but Chris, I always have you on when we have a Nintendo Direct and we have a state of play to talk about. The great Chris Righteous plays games, guys. You know, people always say, you know, play games, don't play this, don't play that, as far as like arguing on Twitter. This man plays games. Chris, what did you think of the state of play? Was there anything you saw, maybe the Tales of Arise game or anything else that kind of came up that was a bit of a surprise? Or was it just status quo for you?
Oh.
Chris unmuted.
AFK?
I can't. No, he's here. He just unmuted, so he can, maybe having microphone problems. Chris, I'll give you a second, Chris. BRAP.
Judging by his profile picture, I wonder what he liked about the state of play.
Yeah, right? We'll see. We'll see. BRAP, welcome to the show, buddy. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. BRAP, what do you think, buddy?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I think for me, the biggest thing that like got me excited was the release date for what's it called, for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yes.
And then I gotta say the what's it called DLC that you guys were just talking about. The oh crap,
Tales of Arise.
The Tales of Arise. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Friday. I'm still
Nah, I
yeah,
feel
I'm
you.
kind of unwind. Yeah. And then the Helldivers 2 looked interesting.
I thought
feel like it's
Helldivers 2
years.
looked real good. I
I thought that looked pretty good.
that
but
keeps
I
skating
would
under the
say
radar.
That's probably about it. You know, everything else he showed really wasn't for me.
Are you
Really?
feeling okay? Are
You all
sick?
right, BRAP?
Yeah, why?
Why you sound like that?
Yeah, why?
What sound like what?
No,
You
he
s-
said.
you s-
Well, I forget how he sounds. I'm a little more depressed about nothing interesting. BRAP on the
That's
show.
what I'm saying. Is he okay?
I don't know.
No, I mean that was it. That was it. Helldivers 2 and
No
you know, and
Avatar.
everything else I mentioned.
No Resident Evil 4. Maybe pushing FOMO a little further in the BRAP house to get a VR
You know,
headset.
here's the thing. I like Resident Evil 4,
All right.
but I thought it was a little bit long-winded towards the end. So I don't know. I mean, you know,
Who is this
again,
guy?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. What it comes down to. Let me maybe I should
Yeah,
walk this back
unpack
a bit.
this, sir.
Yeah. And by the way, Forte, I just want to say I learned something valuable from you.
Oh, what in the DMs?
That 1.6 is higher than 1.4. I'm just saying.
Listen, somebody tried to throw some shame at your boy, and I had to put him on their back.
I'm just saying. I mean, yeah, Slow-Mo got
saying.
John Cena, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, let me unpack this. Let me unpack this a little bit. So, look, I love Resident Evil 4 remake, but I thought it was a little bit too long-winded towards the end. My only complaint, I think for me though, what the issue that I'm running into now is that there's so many games coming out, and we have this Resident Evil, what's it, the Separate Ways DLC.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with Ada. Yep.
Yeah, with Ada, comes out September 21st. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play it, because, and I'll tell you why, because I'm playing Starfield right now. From Starfield, I'm gonna get back into Baldur's Gate
Okay.
3.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think I'm going to spend a lot of time in Baldur's Gate 3. And so, you know, and then, you know, then Spider-Man 2 comes out in October. So I don't know if this is a game that I'll get around to end of this month, but I think that's why I say I wasn't excited, because of the release, probably more so the release time, the release window, because I know I'm just not going to have time to play it. But so that's, and not that I'm not completely unexcited for it. It's just the timing of it just doesn't maybe work for me.
Guess what? At least you'll get it for cheaper than it is for the people that buy it day one. By the
This
time
is
you get to
true.
it.
This is
So
true. But
look at it that way. Look at
yeah,
it
this
that
is
way.
true. But
Well,
the
isn't
It'll
the
probably work too.
Isn't the Resident Evil DLC
Right,
free?
right, the
Probably
game
work,
probably
yeah.
work by that point too.
Oh,
Right.
and then the other thing too is the cyber. You know, I said Baldur's Gate 3, but Cyberpunk Phantom, was it Phantom City?
September 26th.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it's like, I mean, I would rather play if you had asked me, Brep, you had a choice of the RE DLC or the Cyberpunk DLC. I'm gonna go Cyberpunk DLC.
Yeah,
Yeah, that looks amazing.
that looks
That
really
looked-
good.
Like
Yo,
seriously,
man,
like Bethesda, call CD Projekt Red. They can help you with facial animations.
Shit.
Oh, jeez, no kidding.
He's taking it down a different path right now. I don't know what's going on.
By the way, Brap. By the way,
He's
Brap,
shooting from the hip right now.
By the way,
It's
shout out.
interesting because everybody's gonna need some type of palette cleanse because there's way too many. Like you talk about Starfield, you got
There's a lot.
Cyberpunk. We're coming. A lot of people are still coming off of Baldur's Gate when either
RPG
PC
heaven.
it's crazy right now. So it's like the thought of jumping into something else that's massive just seems daunting at this point.
How is Baldur's Gate? I haven't played it yet.
Oh, don't start if you're playing
Game
other games.
of the year. Game of the year.
So
There's
here's the
only
thing.
one
I
game
think.
of the year,
Listen,
sir.
so
It
so,
is.
it's
Let me tell you.
It's only one game of the year and it's on an underperforming, not underperforming,
No,
under
Slow-mo.
what's the name
Forte.
platform.
Forte. I would, if I had not played Baldur's Gate 3, I would agree.
I know. I'm just
Baldur's, yeah, no, I mean and that's fair. If you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 and if you play Tears of the Kingdom, I could totally understand like that perspective because Tears of the Kingdom is phenomenal.
If it wasn't for
Phenomenal.
the fact that Starfield was like right here and then Cyberpunk is literally right around the corner, then I would have jumped into Baldur's Gate. But no.
yeah, the thing is, Starfield coming out. I ended up choosing to do that. I knew it was going to be a hot topic, so playing through that. We'll get into Starfield in a minute, though. Chris Righteous, is your microphone working? Hopefully, it's working. I want to talk to Chris.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Chris, you're
Got you.
loud and clear, Chris. Chris, listen,
man.
what did you think
I
of
think
this?
it's because I switched connections to Wi-Fi and probably lost audio.
Yeah, the angels are singing now.
It definitely did. That's right. The Angels are singing. The great Chris Righteous is with us. Chris, we can't talk State of Plays or Nintendo Directs without you. Chris, what did you think of the State of Play? And then I'm going to go right into it. What did you think of Spider-Man? Because then I'm going to go through the Spider-Man. And we're not going to talk all glorious things. A lot of people on the internet already saying things. You know what side of the coin is now starting to fire, being like, that doesn't look good.
Yeah, now attention to detail matters.
Yeah,
Oh,
I seen
man.
buildings
I
that
love it.
look like buildings. I see, Jay. I saw what you were tweeting out earlier. Jay
Oh,
Main
for
was
sure.
on fire today. Chris, before we get to Jay, because Jay's gonna go off. Chris, what'd you think of the show? And what'd you think of Spider-Man?
I mean, the show is pretty much what what they laid out. They said it was going to be third-party
Yeah.
updates and indies and whatnot. Well, my initial reaction was a disappointment because it was they didn't confirm any first party was going to be there, right? Even though Spider-Man show ended up showing up anyways, but
Right.
I was like, damn, we got to see the first party because the last showcase was trash, right? They fucking showed 2 first-party games that was just CGI with brand new studios.
Mhm.
So I can't get hyped over that shit because I don't know those studios. But this one, it was like, yo, third party indies, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, so what to expect with this one? They've had great third party state of plays before, and yeah, I mean, due to Spider-Man and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it ended up being a great show for me personally. The other games I didn't really care about. I mean, Tales of Arise DLC is cool. And then the other games, I don't even remember what they showed. They showed like Ghostbusters or whatever. I didn't really care about none of that other stuff. But as far as Spider-Man 2, yeah, it looks incredible. They're expanding the city. They're adding the flight mechanic, but I don't know if that flight mechanic is going to be better than swinging. I don't think so. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a cool addition to get around, faster, especially if we go to Brooklyn and the elevation isn't that high with the buildings, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be cool, but I still think that the swinging mechanics are still going to be the best way to traverse through that game. And yeah, so they're adding more very side missions, and it just looks, like a true grander and better and bigger sequel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like this is what they're gonna do in the sequel. This is how they do it. This is how it seems like to me. I just think it's gonna be a really, really fun game. Spider-Man 2018 was my game of the year for that year, over Red Dead 2 and over God of War. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I'm looking for. I don't think it's gonna be my game of the year this year. I think Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom probably gonna hold that really high for me. But I think this can definitely be right up there, or I can take it. Who knows? But it looks absolutely amazing.
No,
Yeah,
Chris,
I'm really excited
go
for
ahead, Guy.
Spider-Man and the SSD features that it has that are going to be, that they're talking about with PlayStation 5 and their SSD features that it's bringing to the table. That's until Spider-Man 2 comes out on PC. Can do it on
Don't
that.
mention the SSD to the Twitterverse.
don't say that.
They'll come after you.
I'm being facetious here. If nobody can tell, like
No, I
whole
think-
Ratchet and Clank scenario all over again. That we can only do this on PS5.
But hold on, is it an Insomniac game if motherfuckers ain't gonna pick it apart and complain about every little minute detail and things like that? Is it really an Insomniac game at this point?
Right.
That's true. It's tradition at this point.
I don't really pay attention to that stuff. Then you have Rebirth. I don't know if you want to get into Rebirth because I got a few things to say about that because that one looks amazing.
How can you not be excited for Rebirth? What like Mooch just showed on the screen over here? I mean, like fucking Chocobo racing. Come on.
Well, there's going to be a lot of mini games in there. And, Chris, I guess my question for you with Rebirth is this. We had a great discussion on DPS last night. Again, shout out to Slow Mo Forte and OBM. He was on the show as a guest with me. But, Final Fantasy 16, I enjoyed. I think I'm a little over 50 hours into Final Fantasy 16. Do you think that since there's such a love and admiration for the way that Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth's action is, the way that they have their fight sequences, do you think that Final Fantasy 17 will incorporate that fighting tactic, or will they either stay with 16 or go to something completely different?
Well, it depends how well 16 ends up doing in the long run, right? Whether or not, but I think the problem with Square Enix is it's a good thing and a bad thing that they try to reinvent things like for the past Final Fantasies, but sometimes it's best just to get a really good system and just iterate on that, and that's what they're doing with the 7 saga.
Yeah.
What they did a really good job with the hybrid ATB battle systems in 7 Remake, and so now we're gonna get iterations and iteration. And this is what I was telling people. I know you remember this, J-Man, because I was on Press Start when y'all were killing me about defending the multi parts. Yeah, and I was telling people, and I remember saying like, yo, by we see part 2, and that's running on the PS5. Y'all gonna see is like think of all of Remake, which is like 40 hours. Then this game is gonna be like another 100 hours with a bunch of side quests. And then they already teasing that the third game is gonna be bigger and with all these traversal mechanics and the chocobos flying everywhere. It's like now y'all starting to see the vision. It's like not it really could have been done all in like just one on a PS4 if we wanted to be like this grand and this and whatnot, and this expansive, and then the battle system, 9 playable characters and whatnot. But they're giving me everything I want. I always say, I don't want none of the mechanics. Like I want to get chocobos where I can climb the mountain with the chocobos, and they showed it in this trailer. You know what I mean? So it's like I want the submarine, which I think we don't get that to the third game, but on the whole ocean floor, being able to fly around the world and things like that. And then with this game, they're already showing a lot of different traversal options with the car, the buggy, and the different chocobos or whatever. That is really getting me hyped for the third game. So I think they're nailing it and knocking it out of the park. And I think now people are starting to realize it was like, okay, now we know why it's multi-parts, because this is looking like it's going to be way bigger and grander in scales in every way.
Can I chime in on this real quick?
No, go ahead, guy.
Yeah, so what I really want out of Final Fantasy, and this might be just me, but what I really want out of them is Square Enix. I want them to release 2 types of Final Fantasies. I want them to release one that's story driven, that's not an RPG, like I mean the argument that was had with Final Fantasy 16, where you have a really good story, but it's not like the typical Final Fantasy mechanics. And then I want them to release like Final Fantasy 7 type Final Fantasies with like RPG mechanics and what have you. I think that's a good like fit for them, like back and forth, if they keep doing that, because the FF16 story was really good. Obviously, it wasn't like a typical Final Fantasy game, but like it was something different they tried. It was like it kind of broke the mold a bit, and I think that worked for them, as much as people will argue that fact and say it's not a real Final Fantasy game because they're whatever.
Right.
No, it's a Final Fantasy game because that story is 1000% a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it's like it's a really enjoyable story,
Yeah,
I think it's good for them.
My personal issue was 16, right? And I love the game overall. Like I got the platinum and everything like that. It's a great game, but I did have issues. My issues was there was really no variety in a lot of the areas in exploring. Like exploring was definitely non-existent. Like you look at the 7 Rebirth, it's like you going over here, you get a flying chocobo, you go over there, you get a car, there was like none of that in 16.
Yep.
You get a chocobo that's option, but that's just to get you from point A to point B. There was like no other areas that are unlocked that that you can explore now that you have a chocobo. And then the RPG mechanics were very basic. And Final Fantasy is not a complex or really in-depth RPG series like that. But it wasn't, it didn't have this much. Like it had a lot more customizers and things for their other systems compared to this game. And this game felt like it was trying to be more like Devil May Cry and God of War. At least, it's definitely heavily inspired by those games.
Yep.
But the Final Fantasy I grew up with, they did their own thing. They weren't inspired by other games. They were setting their own standards and whatnot. So it was a good game, but as we see with 7 Remake is the one that is like, okay, you got the party members. You're going to have all these customized, the materials and like the RPG mechanics. You can customize the characters and your loadouts. You're going to have different traversal options. Exploring is going to be fun, exploring the world and all the mini games and whatnot. So that's my thing. I still think 16 is a great game, but I think 7 Rebirth is what I envision, like the evolution of Final Fantasy combat.
No, I completely agree with you, Chris. I think the exploration was the hunt board is the reason that I even explored a little bit more in 16, was going to take on those monsters and literally going around and finding them to collect those prizes and level ups. But I mean, at the same time, I agree with you. I do think that Final Fantasy VII is going to be the pinnacle for that. So I want to go to Jay. Jay Main made a point here and he got the audience all riled up. So guys, please do hit the like button. I really appreciate it. By the way, as I watch my own gameplay in Starfield, I'm like, my God, the AI is terrible. All right, listen, Jay, real quick. So many enemies just spawn in Starfield under your feet. You see like the name and then you'll see like the red cursor and then the enemy will pop up under your legs. Anyway, Jay,
you saw my post on Twitter of Sarah getting smacked in the back of the head.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, what was that about?
That was fine.
That was fun. How did that happen?
Oh man,
that was
Just
good.
be a deep conversation, just get smacked out of nowhere.
That's it, but that's the charm.
Yeah, that's that charm.
Normally I wasn't even in the combat zone. You know how you shoot them and then sometimes they'll run away.
Yeah.
So he ran. So he ran away and there was no icons on the screen. So I was like,
back.
He ain't nowhere around. So I'm talking to her, having a deep conversation, and my man just comes up on the screen and smacks me in the head.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo. So I was
man.
editing that doing a podcast last night, and I almost blew a load on the podcast. Like, it was so funny.
You almost did what, Forte?
Pause.
I almost
Pause.
Forte horny right now. Hold on.
Oh, that's not what you said, Forte. You said.
Well, yeah, I picked the wrong word, but you know what I meant.
What'd you say? I was just ordering sushi. I missed it.
No, I ain't saying anything.
You don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I think J-Man heard him though.
What you
Yeah,
say?
we ain't gonna repeat.
I was ordering
that.
sushi. He said.
Wrong words were used.
Freaky Friday over here. Mooch, what you got going on, man?
Forte do it later.
I know what I'll have going on with my wife when I
Jay,
get home now.
Jay, everybody on the show signs a disclaimer. They're responsible for their own. Jay, real quick, got to ask you. So you made a good point. So now attention to detail matters. Like, we're watching some Starfield, gameplay here. That all didn't matter. It was just the Bethesda charm. So now let's get back to Spider-Man for a minute. So Jay, and we don't need to talk about one or two different instances. Like, people are nitpicking right now about the buildings, and they're saying they're repetitive, or they're saying there's not enough damage. And it's like, this game looks fire, but I mean, at the same time, I haven't played it yet, so I'll wait to see. Same thing I said with Starfield. I didn't, now that I've played about 26 hours, I feel I can speak more freely. But what did you think about Spider-Man as a whole, and now how the audience is responding?
So the gameplay and stuff like that, it looks fire. I tried not to watch too much of the stuff that was going around, because now I'm starting to hear that there's a lot of actually spoilers in this preview content that's been coming out.
Yep.
So I kind of been like sticking to the Cliff Note post of people talking about the different performance options and talking about all the different suits and a lot of the side mission stuff and all of that, fast travel. But one thing I did get into it a little bit with, shout out to Gaming Addict, that's my boy right there. But I did see his post about it. He was like, because there was a scene where it was a truck kind of like getting scaled up a building. Yeah. And it was like crashing into like the windows and stuff like that. It was like, it's kind of taking me out the experience that there's no damage going on to the building. I'm just like, well, first of all, there was damage. Now, how much damage was there is definitely something you can critique. about what was
Right.
going on there. But
Yes.
but I was just confused. I'm like, hold on, now these type of things are taking people out of the experience when they was just playing the game a few weeks ago, where things like footprints and suits getting wet in water was non-existent.
That's right.
So I didn't see anybody complaining about that. And so if that's not something you care to complain about, cool. That's just not who you are. You're not that type of gamer. You don't analyze stuff like that. But to see people analyzing this game like this is like, come on now. What are we doing now? Are you what I mean? Like, are you nitpicking because it's a PlayStation game, or is this like, what I mean? This is how you are. And I don't think it was genuine. So I had to call my guy out on that. And he did a little backtracking. He did a little he did some of his best cornerback moves, and he was like, oh well, the damage isn't that much. All right, cool. But I think for stuff like that, I like to wait until the game comes out before I fully criticize attention to detail fully. But,
so TC, I'll go to you. Jay, outstanding point on the attention to detail now becoming a thing. TC, you see this back and forth. I know sometimes you try to avoid it on Twitter, but it happens. But TC, you also saw that they have a 30, 40, 60 frame mode. And I think it's James Stevenson. I may be saying his name, James Stevenson. Anyways, he's one of the PR guys. And he said that they're going to be doing this with every mode incorporating ray tracing.
Ray tracing.
So,
yeah, I saw that.
What do you think,
that was excited. That was exciting for me to see. The biggest thing that I got excited for, I know a lot of people went for the 60 FPS mode, but I'm wondering if the 40 FPS is probably going to be the 120 hertz, if it's going to be similar in resolution to the fidelity, similar to like the past games. That's the mode that I really get excited for, and I'm curious to see what Digital Foundry does. But seeing ray tracing on everything, and I saw the PlayStation fan base just go in talking about 60 FPS, getting hyped over 60 FPS, and of course doing that whole comparison with Starfield. Now, for me, I don't. It's not that I try to avoid it in terms of the conversation. It's just that when it came to Starfield specifically, I don't know what the energy was in the air, that it was like a mob. This doesn't happen with Forza, doesn't happen with Gears, hasn't happened with some of these past games. Starfield has such a tense atmosphere to it that everything was riding on this game. Everything.
Well, everything kind of was riding on that.
Yeah,
game.
no, but they still have more games to come. Forza's coming out soon, right? So that's another game. But it's just it was like a mountain on there that I'm like after ABK, I'm like, do I really want to do these headaches? But the thing about it is, I talked about PlayStation, focused on PlayStation. I could talk about a banana on the street. Somebody is in my comments talking about Starfield's better. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I'm talking about. Somebody's in my comments mentioning Starfield. At the beginning, I was like, what does my post have to do about Starfield? I could be talking about anything. And Starfield came to the situation. That's a part of that tense atmosphere that I saw with this game.
You see that on both sides with that game too, like both ways.
No, well, the biggest issue with Starfield, honestly, is because of development times. Now, how long games take to develop. What's happening with Starfield and Bethesda in general is the fact that these games take so long to be put out there and made by companies like Bethesda. And by the time they're out there, people are kind of over that style of game, and they don't even realize it because how old it feels.
Yeah.
So like Starfield, I play it. I don't need to pick up every goddamn thing on the ground or on a shelf, but that's something that used to be cool.
No, you have to. You have to do that. You have experienced the game. The whole thing.
What I'm saying is that used to be a cool feature in like Skyrim, but like games have really developed a far way since then, and it's not the same type of atmosphere anymore. So I think that a lot of what we're seeing with Starfield is like people expecting this like Goliath of a game that is going to change the world and cure hunger. And what we're getting instead is a game that is very much reminiscent of a Skyrim and of a Fallout. And if you look at those games now, even though they have the nostalgia-based factor behind them, they are still, when it comes to their systems, they're kind of old at this point from what we've seen and what we're used to now as gamers. Maybe us old schoolers and old people like Mooch and myself. I just think that Starfield, it's not that it's a bad game. It's not trying, like, I don't think that they intentionally put it out there as a bad game or as a game that's poorly developed. I think that
people are
Bethesda
genuinely
just knows
enjoying
how to develop just like that, and that's what they know because they have like maybe an old school mentality of Todd Howard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But people are actually enjoying it, which is all right. That's the thing. People are enjoying it left and right, and I'm like, that's fine. And but if anybody says anything of the opposition, anything at all, worse than like any other Xbox title, this one was just. I had somebody coming in telling me in my comments, "You hate Starfield." Again, take in that I have not talked negatively about Starfield. I have not talked about it. I've talked about PlayStation. I've just been focusing on what's going on with PlayStation. And I was like, where did you get that I hate Starfield? He's like, are you not playing it? I'm like, I've told you guys, I don't care. I did, again, maybe this is blasphemy to some of you in the chat here, or in the session here. I didn't care about. I tried to get into Fallout. It wasn't for me. I tried to get into Skyrim. It wasn't for me. And then people, I'm like, am I magically supposed to love Starfield because it's an Xbox exclusive? Is that why I'm supposed to start? I'm like,
That's why
TC, how
some
old are
people
you?
like it.
How old are you, TC, if you don't mind me asking?
We've definitely seen that.
I'm hiding that in the wind. Don't worry about it.
You're hiding in the wind. Well,
No. I'm 30. I'm 31.
okay, so I think again,
same age.
I think with Starfield, you have people who are waiting for that game, who played Skyrim, who played Elder Scrolls, and
Which is all right.
they grew up with those games, right? But when you have games like Cyberpunk now that are in that atmosphere or hemisphere of what Starfield is supposed to be, and the way Cyberpunk is at this point, not the way it launched, of course. You know, it's like comparing apples to oranges, right? At the end of the day, like Starfield is just when I play it and I pick it up, there's something about it that feels to me like I'm playing an Xbox 360 game and not a next gen game. And you know, it feels nostalgic and it feels okay to me because I grew up during those times. But for new gamers and people who are new to this whole entire thing, or just been like, you know, 20-year-olds and teenagers, they're gonna play a game like Starfield and be like, what's so special about this?
Yeah, so Guy,
you know?
I got to agree with you. And you must have been listening to last night's show. That's exactly what I said last night on DPS. I said, I'm not going to sit here and bash it. You can see I've got about 26 hours now into Starfield. It's a good game. It's not a great game. But when I was talking to the panel last night, they said, so Mooch, what would you say? What I would say is the game, for me, this was supposed to be 25 years in the making. This is Todd Howard's baby. This is supposed to be the claim to fame for Xbox. And to me, as I'm playing it, it feels old. It just feels very old. It doesn't feel like anything moved the bar forward. I'm not, again, you may say, geez, Mooch, I'm talking to people in the chat right now. They're like, I've put 56 hours in. Some people said they've got 80 hours in to Starfield and they love it, but they go, I kind of hear you. Like, people are you can still enjoy the game and say, hey, I don't feel like anything in this is really new. Like, and when I say not new, because people go, well, what's new about Spider-Man? Well, I understand there's not maybe the newest things, but there are newer features in it that are a little bit more like feels next gen. Whether even if it's just ray tracing, there's no ray tracing here. There's nothing. You can see. Look at the colors on the screen. Everything's just gray and green. When the box comes up, it's just that, you know, Times New. It's like that Times New Roman font. You know, it's just
hard. It's the nature of the beast of the gaming development atmosphere as a whole, right? Like there's going to be one day where all of us are going to be watching YouTube or whatever platform is out at that point in time. We're going to be old and gray, sipping on our coffee, and people are going to be talking about how The Last of Us, like a game that comes out like that, it feels dated, right?
Yes.
Or it feels like you have these Sony IPs that are massive now, like God of War, Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn. There's going to be gamers who play games 20 years from now who are going to look at those games. And there's going to be developers who are still alive and are still developing, who are making games just like that. And you're not going to get the claim to fame like they're used to getting. And that's where Todd Howard comes in. He's an old type of developer, and he's not a next gen type of developer. Like
they need to overhaul their engine. They need a new engine. They need to overhaul their engine, and then some of the freshness will start to come with hopefully Elder Scrolls 6.
I think the only company right now that can get away with releasing games that feel just like they always fucking have felt is Nintendo. And that's because they have such a retro like fan base that they just, everybody just wants the same thing over and over and over again.
You gotta give it to Nintendo a bit, because they do try different things with their mainline Mario games. Zelda's different than what it was.
Yeah, they always reinvent.
Yeah, I never cared.
Mario
about the
Wonder
previous
is looking
Zelda
fire
games.
too.
That's why.
Yes.
That's why those IPs remain relevant throughout all these years, is because it's not
They
just
refresh.
same thing over. I mean, the base is yes, right, but they try to mix it up.
Like
and make
it's
it
still
fresh.
Mario, but Mario Galaxy is not the same as Odyssey. You know what I mean?
No,
Mario
absolutely
Galaxy
not,
is not the same as Odyssey. They're different games. Or Mario Sunshine is not the same as Mario 64. They're different. They're different games. The Zelda Breath of the Wild is not the same as. I'm not gonna go all the way back to Ocarina of Time, or I guess Twilight.
Yeah, they really switched it up with Breath of the Wild. Yeah,
Exactly. Breath of the Wild is the first Zelda that I loved. I loved Breath of the Wild, and I didn't care about any previous Zelda game. Breath of the Wild was that game I was like, okay, I'm a fan.
Yo, shout out
the game's amazing.
Yo, if TC, shout out to Ryan Landis. He goes, Todd Howard is like that cool 90s band that's still touring Fairgrounds.
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
like Third Eye Blind. He's
that's
like Third Eye
actually-
Blind.
That's an outstanding.
Oh man, not Third Eye Blind.
That is
Yeah.
outstanding. Shout out to the
He's a
great
semi-charm kind of guy, you know?
Shout out to T-Rock 40. He says, don't sleep on Armored Core 6 Game of the Year material. Everybody wants to talk game. We can't talk Game of the
loves
Year.
that game.
I know. And listen, I'll give it its flowers. It looks like it's really great. It's not my bag. I love From games, and we're gonna get into like even some From like games like Eliza P in a moment. But let's go over to this. We'll switch over now. We've done about an hour on the state of play. I want to go over to King J. Jay, we got to get you back on here. Jay, we were talking about Starfield, and I'm not going to spend. We already kind of bled into it, so I'm not going to spend much time, maybe 10 more minutes on it. Starfield's meta has gone from 87 to 86 to 85 to 84. We are down to 83. I mean, this thing is sinking.
Yeah.
So, like, when you see this, I mean, now there's a lot of hot fixes, right? And we were kind of going over a lot of the hot fixes. Some of them are for PC, DLSS, and other improvements coming. You know, but the thing about it, right, mini maps. But Jay, and eat, there's going to be an eat button, which sounds very, very small, but it's a big deal if you've been playing the game. Having an actual, when you pick up all these things, you can eat them on the spot and not have to store them. But Jay, when it comes down to it, I made a joke last night. I said, geez, you would think that maybe they would need a year delay, but oops, they already had a year delay. So why are all these things coming still when they had this game was supposed to launch a year ago? Like a year ago. So Jay, where are you on Starfield, whether you're playing it or not, with everything that's going on, with the updates that are coming that probably should have been there day one, and with the meta continuously dropping?
Yeah, so I'm definitely continuously playing it. I think I'm still really early, probably like 7 hours into the game, not too far.
Okay.
I like it. Like these games, they give me OCD with the amount of shit. Like you guys were just talking about, like picking up everything. Like that's the type of person I am. I like to explore everywhere, like to pick up shit. But I understand how massive, how much time you can sink into something like a Bethesda game doing that. But this in terms of the updates and the quality of life fixes, I think that's just the nature of Bethesda at this point. Like I know they're used to like the PC modders adding shit to the game and fixing it. Like DLSS wasn't a thing from Bethesda themselves, but by day one you already had the DLSS mod there. For people who wanted to utilize it being there, and all those other quality of life fixes. Like I was a person that was like, damn, there's not even an HDR calibrator on this game. We got to talking about like how the colors felt like washed out, and like there's no brightness
and contrast.
Yeah, no brightness and contrast, like little stuff like that you would think that's just basic, like to put in a game, let alone like an RPG or something like that. So it's definitely sad to see, because I hate that these days we buy these games or we play these games day one and we feel like the beta testers, and it's just like it seems like it's getting worse and worse across the board. In terms of like the Metacritic stuff, I think it's interesting because a lot of the scores coming in now seem to be from that UK crowd that got shunned or got didn't get those review codes day one. So it's like, is it them getting a lick back because they didn't get, they didn't get looked out day one to get a review copy, or are their scores justified? Like, are the things they're saying when they're giving the game a 6 out of 10? I think the 4 out of 10 from who was it? Jim Sterling. I think that was insane. I don't think this game is anywhere near 4 out of 10.
No,
but something like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I could see some people giving a game like that the score, but you gotta look at it and think like, all right, this game is now sitting at an 83. Is it too low for a Game of the Year nominee, or does that not matter? Like, I think it's definitely
That really doesn't matter. I mean, Death Stranding was an 83, right? That
but it
got
was
but it was
in
in
a
the year.
stacked year.
Yeah, like,
You
I
know what
know
I'm
that it
saying?
was in a year that wasn't as stacked as this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's gonna be surprise snubs, and I think
Yeah.
it might be a Starfield, it might be Final Fantasy 16 as well too. You don't
Yeah.
know, like Hogwarts. I don't think some people put Hogwarts. I don't think Hogwarts is getting nominated, bro. I don't think Hogwarts is getting nominated at all, even though it's the biggest game currently.
Really?
But
I think controversy alone, Star Hogwarts is not going to get nominated. I think
yeah, exactly.
the whole
'cause you
J.K.
still
Rowling
got-
stuff. A lot of people are going to stay away from that.
Yeah, the people still in their feelings about that. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
Yeah, but you know when you
So-
say, Chris. By the way, everything you guys are saying on the panel right now is right, and who gets snubbed in the awards ceremony, that's going to be interesting. But that game sold and is still in the top. I think it's still in the top 5. I mean, that
Yeah.
game is selling like crazy.
yeah, it's the biggest. What you talking about, Hogwarts?
Yeah.
It's still the biggest. I think it still had I think it's still the biggest sold game, and
Yeah,
I think
I
number 2 is Tears of the Kingdom right now. So
I platinumed Hogwarts, and I'll tell you that game is probably one of my favorites. It's up there for the runnings for Game of the Year. I thought that was a really well made game. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'll tell you, it'd be surprised to see if that one gets snubbed. But I do see what you're saying. If a lot of these people that are on the board that didn't get Starfield reviews, that may happen too, right? I don't know.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
You know?
yeah, I think it's. And listen, I haven't played Starfield. I'm gonna play it eventually one day when I get an Xbox or something like that. I am interested in because I play all the Bethesda games, but I knew it wasn't gonna be the next Skyrim. Yeah, I think people would just overhyping it way too much because
I
Bethesda
agree.
just get away. They just get away with a lot of design decisions that people are just like okay with. You know, kind of like other. You know, you could say that same thing with Nintendo, right? But I didn't think it was gonna be anything too crazy like that. But I think I'll like it if I try it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's something to it. BRAP, we got to go to you, BRAP. And we didn't really get a chance last week, and now you're over 50 hours in Starfield, BRAP. And me and you, I wrote to BRAP today, and, I basically said to him, I said, I'm about 26 hours in, but, there's a mission I'll do here or there that kind of invokes a bit of a spark in me. And I'm like, oh, I'll play a little bit longer. And then I'll do the next mission, BRAP, and I'll almost like fall asleep on the couch. So
That's my experience.
What are you
to
talking about?
achieve
Final Fantasy 16 or Starfield?
Starfield.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Jay with the jam from Jay with the
Final Fantasy 16
jam.
had those moments too, by the way.
Woo, peaks and valleys.
There's
I'll
a
tell you.
couple.
But
There's a
I will
couple.
say the voice acting and the story is a little more interesting in Final Fantasy 16, in my opinion, than Starfield. Look, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mooch.
Yeah, no, I wanted to know where you are
Yeah.
now. I mean, with somebody like yourself that's 50 plus hours in, listen, you're in that tier now of people that have played the game where I think you can say, where do you think, now that we are talking about meta scores, forget meta, what about the BRAP score? BRAP, where are you now? Are you a 10, a 9, an 8, a 7, or 6? And I thought Jay did a really good job of saying, now that he's played 7 hours of it or so, he can see kind of where a 6 or a 7. 4 is ridiculous, 10's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm probably, if I had to give it a score right now, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I think that Mooch, you're having the same experience that I'm having. It's you play these missions that are, oh wow, this is great, and then you go play something else like, oh man, this is terrible.
It's bad. Yeah.
And look, the loading really breaks the immersion.
Thank
for me.
you.
Like it's like I'm like, come on, like like really, the voice acting is flat. It's there's no range to the voice acting at all. I think it's a shame because there's some dialogue at times it's actually pretty interesting, well written, but it doesn't captivate or elicit that emotional response you would expect from good dialogue, character banter back and forth, because voice acting is so flat. I know somebody had who reviewed the game said something how the facial animations look great or something.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Like that's clearly someone who doesn't play video games, by the way. You look like it's just like there's certain things that aren't S tier about this game,
Right.
that were and I think about like Skyrim. We talked about like a generational game, like the way Todd Howard was talking about Starfield for me, it made me think about when he was talking about Skyrim, and I remember, and I've played like every Bethesda game you can think of. I remember playing Morrowind on the original Xbox. I remember playing Oblivion on the 360. And I remember like one of the things that I could go back to when Todd Howard revealed Skyrim was, and one of the conversations many of us would have in different forums at the time was, wow, like we wish that you could explore like Morrowind, for example, was a big world, but you couldn't go to that mountain. And so when Todd Howard said, "See that mountain? You can actually
Yes.
go there now." We were like, "Whoa,
Wow.
what? Like that's that's all like." And it was, and you could do that in Skyrim. And so my expectation of Starfield was something like that. Like this was kind of move
Mhm.
the needle for what Bethesda Games does. I don't think it has. I think it's I forget who said it, but someone had mentioned the ability to just pick up everything. I thought that was cool 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't see, in my opinion, I don't see much value in that. Like, there's no value to me in being able to pick up spoons, forks, socks, plates, paper cups, duct tape,
No, there really isn't.
know,
There really isn't.
tampons. I mean, like burritos. Like, I like why? Like, where's the value to that? How does it add to the story? I mean, I understand why they do it, and it was cool again 10, 20 years ago because we never had that ability or that freedom to do those things in video games because of the hardware limitations. But now it's like, okay, that's
But you're sitting here. You're sitting here. You went through a bit of a development. You know, I wouldn't use the word development hell, but they went through a little bit of a development like troublesome area. Nobody in the boardroom was like, "Hey, why don't we get rid of the cups and the potatoes and stuff?" Like, I mean, at the same time, you know what I mean? It just seems like a waste of time and effort for the developers because they know that the audience right now. I know you see 3 or 4 people. I love this. I love how the internet does this. And then because one person does, they took all those milk cartons, they made a Milky Way, and then they like dove through, right? And I know, I get it, right? So that makes a really cool tweet, and it gets 1 million views, and maybe that person got paid by Twitter X. But my point being is like nobody cares. Like take the time and effort to do something else with the game or polish something
Mooch.
versus worrying about that nonsense.
Somebody actually made it rain sandwiches. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see it.
And that excuse me, that stuff funny. But to me personally, it doesn't add any value to the experience. Like it doesn't add anything to the story, to the quest. It's like it's almost like what do I pick up? Do I need this like wire cutter? Do I need that? Like I don't know. Like somebody tell me, do I need this?
Let me say this. Let me talk to my audience for a second here. Anybody that's watched me, and shame on me, dude. I have not been on Twitch in like 6 months. I really want to get back on Twitch. I just have not gotten. If I don't have a dedicated schedule, I haven't gone back. But anybody, I know T-Rock used to be there all the time. A couple people I know I see in the chat. I have a collectible issue, right? I have, and it's kind of like what Jay Main said. Call it OCD, call it what you want. Like I pick up everything. So then what I do is when I get done with a mission, I end up going back or I sit there and I either drop everything now or if it's if you like this, if it's an edible, I eat it. No, but I'm saying like if it's something you can eat, I'll eat it, right? But like it is what it is. I try to get rid of everything that's in the backpack, everything that's in my storage. But it's just so annoying. It's like I was saying to BRAP, it's like you go to do something, you're like, that's neat, that's cool. I really like that. Actually, maybe the story in this one case was actually intriguing. And then I'm like, hold on a second. I've got to go eat 2,000 pears I picked up. And you might go, well, Mooch, don't pick them up. But they're everywhere, and they're mixed in with things you do pick up. It's like, you saw when I had the characters on the video we had here. Gentleman's on the ground that you just killed, right? So there's ammo, and then there's nonsense gun. And it's like, it's like I need the gun because I'm out of ammo. That's the other thing. There's no ammo in the game. There's no ammo in a lot of the game. So it's just, those are the types of things that are really, really frustrating when it comes down to it. Forte, we were talking last night. Forte, how many hours are you into Starfield? And where are you on the meta drop that keeps happening day after day?
23, 24 hours in. Me personally, I think I think the game sits like pretty much when it was sitting at like an 87 or 88. I think that's kind of where it needed to sit at for the most part. I think it has 2 different problems. The way that Bethesda went about doing the review process of it kind of ASS backwards a little bit because I think they kind of screwed themselves in 2 different ways. Not only did a lot of the reviewers that didn't get the game to review early have to do it late, they also got a chance to hear other people's opinions that did reviews about the game too. And it's and I don't care who people are. Once you hear opinions about somebody else's game, about somebody else playing the game, you already, even if you're doing your own review, those thoughts are already creeping into your head. So if you think about a lot of people that played the game, it was like some very, outside of the people that gave it 4s and 5s and some people that gave it 10s and stuff like that. Most people's opinions of the game was like it's slow to start out, but it got really, really fun as you went through, and you saw people score. They started like a 6 and it ended at an 8, or it started at a 7 and it ended at a 9. That's kind of like the bridge that kind of happened with this game. So when people finally got a chance that didn't review the game day one and got a chance to finally get either a code that they got late, or they got a chance to finally play it in Game Pass or something and be able to play it that way, they already had their preconceived notions of what the game's already going to be like. So they didn't go into it like with that fresh idea, like, okay, I'm going to explore this game the way I want to. They kind of did it the way that other people did it because they want to get the review out as fast as possible.
Right.
And some people probably enjoyed the game a little bit better that way. And a lot of people probably were like, yeah, I really didn't like the overall structure of the game because of the way it is. But once you get that opinion in your head, it's kind of hard to get it out of your head. So I think they screwed themselves on two sides of that. Now, the menu system sucks in this game.
Yeah.
As much as I love this game, the menu sucks in it because you're always in it. It's a lot of different things that I felt like they could have did to address that when it came to like doing overlays and stuff on the screen, not having that traditional switching of your weapons button on the game. That's kind of crazy. It's like Mass Effect if you kind of think about it, where it slows the game down and you can kind of switch through the tab. But a lot of people didn't know that you had to assign hotkeys to your weapons in order to be able to switch to them inside the gameplay. People were literally playing the game in their menus
to change the gun.
To change guns and stuff. I did that for like the first couple of hours I played the game, and I was like, okay, this is dumb. And then
Hey Forte, I stumbled upon that, by the way, just by realizing that I could set my weapons to like favors, hit the Y button. So you're right. Like I didn't even know. As far as I could tell, there's no tutorial about how to set that up. Yeah.
Well, I saw it in a video when I was watching somebody's like things I wish I knew. That's crazy how you could watch a video on things I wish I knew when I started, and that was like the number one thing. I was like, oh, I came across that by trying to switch weapons, and I saw that wheel, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it didn't dawn to me that you could just put weapons there. And I was like, but I was like 6 or 7 hours in at that point. And I was like, oh, okay, well, my experience just got a little bit better. And, even when it goes to like traversing.
Forte, can I just interrupt you for 1 second since you're talking about things you learned like later on? Do you guys want to talk about how long did it take you to get the docking mechanism down before you knew how to dock?
I got that down pretty cool.
I didn't know. See, I thought the very first time I went to go dock up at one of the space station type things for a side mission thing, I literally I creep, just like you would see in any kind of space movie, right?
Yeah.
I crept up to where I saw the blue diamond. And then as I got closer, it gave an option to dock or whatever it was, hail or whatever. Anyway, now for anybody that doesn't know this, I'm sure a lot of people do. From way back, you can just press A and then it'll give you the option to dock when you're close enough. And then you can dock. But it was funny because even shout out to Major Nelson. Major Nelson had a tweet out right after the game came out, September 6th or something like that. And he's like, he goes, do you guys know? Because he had early access. He goes, do you guys have any idea how long it took me to learn how to dock the ship? And I was like, and so it's not just
literally
a misconception.
When it shows it on the UI, but people aren't paying attention.
They're not,
that's
another
because
thing.
A lot of people were trying to have that experience of the game that really isn't there.
It's just
there. Like space travel in the game.
Thank you.
Isn't space travel.
Thank you.
I could be literally on Mars and I can literally, teleport myself or, fast travel back to the lodge. You don't even have to see shit to do it. You could just do it through the menu, which is cool.
If you're not encumbered, that is.
Yeah, if you're not encumbered, which for the first 15 hours of the game, you're always encumbered.
You always are, yeah.
You always are. So I think the game was kind of sitting where it needed to sit. Like if we think about just the actual score of this game, I always said I being the person I was hoping for a 90 something because Xbox kind of needed something like that. But once it came in like 86, 87, 88, I was like, okay, that's about where it needs to sit at. Now the fact that it keeps dropping, I think that's kind of a symptom of the way that the reviews came out and people like, you know, as much as they don't want to say it, they already had a preconceived notion of the game when they got it because they knew what other people experienced, and they might be getting a little bit of hate because don't try to block us out of reviewing your game on day one.
That's
because
right.
you
Yeah,
think we're just going to crap
it
on
is.
your game.
But is all the late reviews giving it a 6 or only
No,
you?
No, not all of them.
So
No,
we
not
can't
all
really
of them.
Yeah, I don't
really
know
put
that.
all
I
the
don't know
blame
that
on
it.
just, oh, they got the reviews late, now they're
No,
salty
I
about
don't.
it, you know?
I just don't think.
I don't know that
just
it's
think,
anger that.
No, I
drives
don't think
it.
it's
No,
anger.
I don't think
No, I
so.
don't think it's anger. I just think that like you are willing to probably give something a higher score when you experience it yourself and not have preconceived notions of what
I
you
mean,
heard from other people off the back. You're because a lot of people overlooked a lot. Think about when you write those reviews at the very beginning of the first day. A lot of
couldn't that
people
go both
overlooked a
ways?
lot of things in this game. Yeah, we definitely
But not
can.
like the
Like I'm
IGN
saying,
and GameStop.
because like
No,
Yeah.
IGN gave it a straight up 7 right out
Right,
the
so did
gate.
GameSpot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
When it came
so
out
that's
the
what I'm
same
saying.
day,
But Forte, could it
But
go both?
even
But could it go both
even
ways?
they
Because
said that.
it could it go
But
both ways?
yeah.
Like where like like you're saying like oh well I think what you're saying is
Yeah.
they may have been because they heard about some of the issues of the game that maybe they went in that but I mean at the same token like if some people are saying that and they play the game they don't experience those issues. I think the flip side could happen too where maybe maybe what someone experiences an issue may not be an
Right.
issue for them.
Yeah, but let me ask you this though, because I was one of those people. I usually don't watch reviews. Like I'll probably look at one or two, but this was such a big game, and I was
Yeah.
at work. And the reviews came out so early in the day. I literally watched probably like 3 or 4 hours. I watched ACG's review. I watched Rand's review. I watched IGN's review. I watched a whole bunch of reviews that day just to kind of get a just. And I'll tell you, me person being a person that didn't watch reviews, I played the game differently off those reviews. Like everybody was saying,
Yeah.
don't do a whole bunch of side stuff. Stay on mission because the game is really, really slow out the gate. And if you're one of those people that likes to explore early in the game, it's going to kind of get boring and tedious to you because you're not progressing the main story. So I literally did that. And that's why I didn't have like that kind of like burnout phase where a lot of people did have it, because people that reviewed the game on day one, they tried to play it like a typical Bethesda game, whereas it wasn't meant to be done that way. You kind of need to play this game the way you want to play it. And you can't tell me that people that reviewed the game after the fact that heard other people's reviews kind of went into their review. And like, you're right. People can basically say, oh, I had a way better experience. And like I said, my experience was great. I actually enjoyed my experience, but I know a lot of people like IGN that said that they started out. If you look at the review, the actual written review, they said that game was like a 6 when they started. And they finished at a 7. And that was like kind of, nobody said their score was higher at the beginning and the score got lower at the end. Everybody went low in the beginning and went high at the end because the game was just like a slog for a lot of people to get through. And a lot of these other people didn't probably have to experience that because they heard other people's reviews. But, that's just one thing. But I think the reviews are kind of right where they need to be at for the most part. It could probably be a tick higher or a tick lower. But, I mean, the game is what it is. I'm enjoying the game, and that's all that really kind of matters at this point. And I think if you enjoy the game, just keep playing.
That's exactly it, Forte. Speaking of enjoying the game, the glorious Kev is with us. It's hard to get Kev on the show. Kev, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yes.
Kev, what's up, man? Now, Kev, you've been very vocal. After we get done with this, we're going to move on to another subject here. Chris, I got a great topic for the great Chris Righteous after this. Glorious Kev, what do you think about a few things? I believe the audience wants to hear how you are enjoying Starfield, I believe. But at the same time, what do you think about the metascore? We have not seen a game drop. We've seen a score go up a point or two or down a point or two, but it's continuously dropping as we go further and further along here. What's your take on the game itself and the meta?
I love the game. I've been enjoying it. I like Bethesda games in general, so I'm not surprised. But Fallout's actually one of my favorite IPs. This feels like, well, let's even break it down further. My 2 favorite IPs are Mass Effect and Fallout. I love this game. It goes right into there. As far as the meta goes, I don't know the scores to begin with. I've been watching the hate boners on Twitter, but I'm enjoying the game. Like when I saw the hate boners, there's so much vitriol online going on about the game that I've kind of just pushed it to the side and just kept enjoying my game because I don't want them to rain on my parade.
Right.
For me, the game is like about a high 7, high 8, or high 7, low 8.
Okay.
I don't think that's a bad score.
No,
Like,
it's not a bad score.
I was worried out when people were mad that the game got a 7 from IGN. I'm like, why do you?
Right. Like that's still a good score.
A bad score.
Right.
Of anything. That's actually really good.
Can we talk
I'm
about?
I'm a basketball guy. If you're going 7 from 10 for 3,
That's alien like.
So Kev, I'm glad you brought something up.
Well, I will say something about that though, Kev, because you can go 7 for 10 for the 3, but it ain't the same thing if you go 7 for 10 for the free throw line.
Perspective.
If you Shaq, that's God tier.
Kev,
well, yeah, okay, well, you're right. If you're Shaq, that's God tier, but it's all about perception. You know, a lot of people went into this game, and I can think, I think all the, and we said this on pretty much every show. This game had the weight of Xbox on.
Yeah,
it wasn't fair. It's not fair. Like when Redfall fell through the cracks and it just dropped on the ground like a bad habit. Everybody was like, all right, Starfield is it, you know, because everybody was thinking that Redfall was going to be the beginning of what everybody was hoping that the new Xbox was going to be. And that ended up not being the case. So everything focused and shifted over to Starfield. And as soon as that happened, I was like, listen, this game cannot live up to the expectations that are being set on it. Because if this game doesn't get like a high 90, 95 Metacritic, which isn't fair to that game, and not saying the game shouldn't shoot to be a 95 or 96 Metacritic, because you should. Every game should be. But
you know,
this game was going to have a hard time living up to that due to what all the pressure that was on it.
Forte, you're
100% by the way.
You're 100% right
on that for a little bit.
You're 100% right, Forte, but I want to go back to what Kev was saying a second ago when he said 7 out of 10, high 7 out of 10 is not a bad score. First of all, Kev's 100% right. Second of all, the one thing that we don't do, and I remember this argument, you guys might not remember this. This is going back 5-6 years ago. But realistically, 0s and 10s on a scale of 0 to 10 should be thrown out. And you go, what does that mean? 10 is perfect, right? They use the word masterpiece, right? Like that, there's no 10 and there's no 0. So when you stop and think about it, think about that for a second, guys. If you take the 0 and the 10 out,
what about ET?
Say again?
ET's a 0.
You say ET's a 0?
The game.
Atari.
Oh, the Atari game. Okay, well, yeah, well, I guess you can. I'll go a 1. But my point is this. But I mean, like realistically, there's no such thing as a 10. Like a 10 means that if you say something's a 10, then nothing can ever truly beat it, right? So what I think when someone says a 7.5 or an 8, listen, I got news for you. I've beaten a lot of 7 and 8s, and I love those games. So that's not a bad score, and where Starfield's sitting is not bad. This is not a bash session. Shout out to Pred H2O. Kev, if you want, I don't know if Kev, are you using your normal mic or are you on a phone?
No, I'm on my normal mic.
Okay,
you should be.
It seems like you're coming through a bit louder than usual. That maybe that's a me problem, but it sounds like you're coming through. It's a little distorted and loud. I just wanted to make sure.
How's this?
That's much better. Thank you, Kev.
Yeah, Discord had me cranked at full.
Okay, there we go. Now I can put you back to full on my end. Okay, great. No problem, Kev. But you know, Forte, when you said this had to get a 10, this had to be a 9 for Xbox, let me ask you a question, Forte. Was that Xbox's fault or the Xbox community that put that on that pedestal? I don't necessarily blame Xbox. I think the community made this out to be, you know, the next coming of you know who. You know, I don't know. Like,
it's a little bit of it's a little bit of both. I would probably put, because I would never blame. Now there's certain things I blame fans for. I won't blame fans for putting this game on the pedestal that it rightfully probably should be on when it comes to like this type of game. You know, first brand new IP from Todd Howard in X amount of years and stuff. You know, there was a lot of build up just due to what kind of game it was going to be. When they first announced this game, everybody was excited. Just like when CE Project Red announced Cyberpunk back in 2013.
Yep.
Everybody, like,
expectations was through the roof.
Was through the roof. You know, so I will never say that it was fans that did it, because, you know, a game like this should be celebrated. The problem was Xbox didn't live up to basically the overall power with the system could basically put out. And I don't care what Todd Howard say, because the fact that man sat up there and says 30 frames per second, it was his vision. Heck no, I don't know what he's talking about, because guess what, the game, because if you are a console, you're experiencing this game. I mean, it's playable. I will say that it is playable. It's not terrible.
Oh man, I was told it was a smooth 30 FPS. Come on, Forza.
So was Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 back in 2007. And guess what? Now Halo runs at 60 frames per second in 2023. So I mean, you know, everything kind of evolves over the course of time. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. I just think Xbox kind of set expectations around the power narrative. You know, the fact that we're in the fact that we got games like Horizon Forbidden West out there, that's I still to this day think is one of the best looking games that's an open world that you could possibly play. Those are the type of experiences that people want to see. Who cares about the third person over the shoulder gameplay that PlayStation has? It's just that their games look amazing. And this game is supposed to be the next showpiece for Xbox, and it doesn't look bad. But when you couple the way that the game is being perceived, plus the performance, you know, not issues, but the performance not living up to stuff, that's an Xbox problem right there.
Yeah.
And Xbox kind of needs to fix that. So that's where I kind of feel like the expectations are kind of just out of whack for the game. But I also think this game could never really live up to all of the. It would have been nice if it could, but it was really, really stacked against it to live up to the expectation this game got thrust onto it, because Xbox isn't in the place it needs to be in.
2 things on that. The game isn't optimized. Even like as I'm playing it on PC, I have a 7900 XT.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I still am not getting full CPU utilization for no good reason. Like it's sitting on like the 70-80% unless I'm indoors. That's a Bethesda issue, and Xbox is never going to live up to the standard that I think some of the fans put on it. I still believe they're catching strays from when Don Matrick said, if you don't have an internet connection, go get a 360. I believe they are still suffering from that, and they will never get over that. Nope, them strays have not left yet. And it's like, for all of the good that Phil Spencer has done, until he can give you multiple 10 out of 10 undeniable games, you got to give him that God of War 2018. You got to give them something the caliber of The Last of Us, where the fans just love it that much. It reviews that well. And you got to get beyond people's personal biases, whatever they may or may not have. In order to even stand a chance in this market.
Yeah, Kevin Forte right now are preaching, by the way. And I mean, no, because you know what it is? I'm sitting back and I'm listening to it, and this is not a fanboy conversation. This is speaking from the heart. He legitimately is kind of putting things into perspective, and that's what it is. I think, and you said 9s or 10s. I would say, you want to hear this honestly, Kevin? This goes for Starfield because it's 83. I would even say consistent 8s and 9s. It doesn't have to have. I would never ask Xbox or PlayStation, like, you have to give me a 10. You want to sprinkle a 10? He wants it again. Go ahead. But I'm one of those people that truly thinks when someone says 10, even if you look at me, like, I love The Last of Us. But like, literally, even if I was to be real with you guys, just to save face, I would say a 9.5. Right? I would not say it's perfect.
I don't think I ever gave a game a 10.
Yeah, I would never say 10.
I just don't do because of what it means. Like, it means masterpiece. It means perfect. Like, I can't find a game that's like that for me. It always has something. There's always something.
There's always something.
There's always something. I think perfection is a bit much when people say 10, but I understand where they're coming from. When I think of a 10, I think of something like Ocarina of Time.
Right, that's how I view it too.
Like, I would give a 10.
Oh, Chris is
when
like,
I view a 10, I view like it is a masterpiece. Not that it's perfect, because to me, no game is truly perfect. You can always find something.
That's right.
Wrong with the game, but it's just like, it's so good that whatever few minor flaws it may has is not enough to knock it. That's to me like a 10.
Yeah,
and I want to clarify.
I think they could have had it with Halo Infinite, but they should have pushed it back. I think Halo Infinite had potential. It didn't have enough content, and it had too many.
We don't talk about that game here.
I love Halo Infinite, especially where it's at now. It's in a great place right now.
Yeah, it took
just
2
took
years.
3
It
years.
took 3 years to get there, and I'm still
Exactly.
mad at that.
The thing
that's
of-
crazy.
see, for
That's
me,
unacceptable.
see, for
That's
me,
Sure.
the game should, if the game would have launched in a better state, more content, and at least significantly less technical issues.
see the Kev, for me, the reason I have a
I think it
problem,
could help.
the reason I have
quite
a
a bit.
problem with what you're saying with Halo, and the only thing I would disagree with you is, first of all, multiplayer is a massive part of Halo. Let's just put that on the table. But the other half of the equation is the campaign, the story, Master Chief. Like, that's what we talk about, the lore. Those books, the books aren't written on the multiplayer, okay? They're
Right,
written
agreed.
and the problem is that single player campaign was empty, repetitive,
Oh.
and shallow.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. I
I'm
love the
sorry.
campaign for Halo Infinite.
Kev, it was, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on. It really wasn't. And where's the rest of it? Like, this, the 10-year game that's never going to end, it ended in a month. Like,
Oh yeah, the
you know,
campaign ain't no 10-year game. That's for damn sure.
you know, I just wanted more campaign. I'm not even going to talk any kind of smack at all about the multiplayer. That's fine. They found their footing. Good for them. They haven't found an audience, but they found their footing. But it's just, you know, I think when it comes down to it, the one thing I wanted to bring up that Forte said this early on tonight. He said, I don't listen to reviews. And, you know, that's one of the things that I've started to do more. You want to sit here and have the fun console war stuff with the Metacritic stuff. Fine. That's all fun. That's never going to go away. But as far as me making a purchase, it's not going to be. It's not going to be because a 7 or an 8 is from somebody I've never met in my life, said that they played it and they liked it or they didn't like it. You know what I mean? So,
if anything, it's the technical aspect of a review that might make me not buy it.
Yes.
But in terms of like their personal opinion, I look at a game and I can tell right off the bat when I'm seeing gameplay if I'm going to be excited for it. So if you give it a 4, it's not going to make me feel like I'm not going to like it no more because you gave it a 4. Even if you're somebody I respect in the community that I typically agree with your gaming opinions. It's just this one we ain't agree on. Like, I still want to play it. Like, I still got to see for myself.
Great point, Jay.
One of those things that happened with me, because we were all going to get and play Starfield because it's just a big game and everybody wants to be a part of that conversation. But the only reason I watched reviews for this is because a lot of my content creator friends were making videos and doing reviews on it. Like, literally the first one that popped up, I watched Rand's. And when he said the game was mediocre in the beginning of his review at the beginning, I was like, oh, really? And that really triggered for me. I said, okay, by the time his review was over, he gave it a 9. But I said, you know what? Let me go hear what some other people say, because I want to know if other people had the same experience that he had at the beginning. And it was consistent across the board, pretty much with everybody, where it started out slow. So that's why I tried not to watch them. I only did it this time because I wanted to support people in the community that actually got a chance to, you know, try these type of games out that a lot of us wish we could. But the one thing I do want to say, the last thing I want to say about it is, this doesn't mean that the game isn't good. I think a lot of people look at it and they're hearing like people talk bad about the game or saying that it doesn't deserve this and it doesn't deserve that. I think there's a lot of conversation going on both sides that just needs to stop. Like, people defending the game that it's not a 9 out of a 10 or a high 8 out of 10. And the people that say, well, the game should be a 10 or a 9 because people are having, you know, console biases and stuff. I think that just needs to all stop. Just, if you're playing the game and you got 90 something hours in it, that's all that should really matter to you. And that's all that really happens in the end. But Xbox, I think they just celebrated hitting 30 million Game Pass subscribers and everything. That's a positive for them. And we just want to see them keep moving in that direction. Starfield definitely moved the needle for them, because I tell people all the time when I'm at work, I've never seen more people either talk about like, hey, people can't believe that Starfield is actually an Xbox first party title. Because it's so strange for Bethesda to be making a game that's this big and it not be everywhere. And all these people keep saying is like, is that really only on Xbox? I say, yeah, Xbox and PC. You got to get an Xbox to play it on PC.
I mean, they did it twice before, but it was before like they really, really blew up like that. It was like more, you had Morrowind, and then you had Oblivion.
But there's been such a long screen of games that came everywhere after that. Because you're absolutely right. That's why I think the overall development and the way that Microsoft and Bethesda came together was actually very natural for them, because they've been supporting each other for like ever since Xbox has been a thing. I just think with this game, There's been people that came in that says, "Hey, I got a PlayStation already. I want to get an Xbox Series S to play Starfield, or I want to get an X to play Starfield."
I got news for you. You know, I see,
and that's
Forte,
what Xbox has to continuously do.
And that's what this game is doing for them. And as bad as people are talking about it in some circles, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now we just want to see Xbox take it to the next level. And if they do that, then we'll be fine. But a lot of people still have questions if that's going to happen or not.
And we need P. Hearns to stop telling us to play Redfield. I'm not playing Redfall. I'm not playing Redfall.
No, we're done.
We say something about 10 years from now, people going to still be playing Redfall. They ain't even got 60 FPS over there. They didn't even
have 2 weeks. They had like 3 hours. Nobody wants to play Redfall. Stop it, Pete.
Over for that game.
Yeah, no, I think you guys made some real good points there. And shout out to X-Abbott. The X-Abbott, without getting into it, because I want to switch subjects, that's not really what I'm saying. I was just saying that since day one, when it comes down to it, I can still critique a Metacritic score. I don't know how. And you just heard Glorious Kev say it. Glorious Kev said, "Hey, Halo multiplayer just found its footing." That's great. But with the lackluster campaign and the very shallow, empty multiplayer that was there at launch, try and explain to me how it got an 87. It just doesn't make any sense. So, and I said that. I even had the great Jeff Grubb on the show, and we had a great debate back and forth. And I just said, I'm not seeing it. I'm playing the game. It's not. So that's why I'm saying to you guys, Metacritic, great for fun discussion, great for podcast discussion. Love the debates. Love it. But like, in all honesty, don't judge your gameplay on that, because honestly, I don't. It's just not the way to go forward. I think Jay said it. King Jay said it best. Jay Main said it. He goes, if you're going to look at a review, go to a reviewer that does discuss in detail the technical prowess of the game, how it handles, how it feels, things like that. That's what really matters. How it plays, its performance. So I do want to go over to the great Chris Righteous. I want to switch subjects here. Chris, this has kind of been a thing, and we talked about it again. We had a great conversation last night on DPS. This episode is sponsored by DPS. Square Enix. Square Enix lost $2 billion in market share. But Chris, when it comes down to it, and it got debunked. People were like, well, that's because Final Fantasy 16 and because, it wasn't on Xbox. Chris, we know that.
Put it on Game Pass, they make $3 billion.
Yeah, put it on Game Pass. And, listen.
Put it on Game Pass, yes.
Yeah, the $8.50 it would have made on Xbox wouldn't have made the difference. My point is that when it comes down to it, Chris, what is it you think the whole situation is here? They sold off 3 or 4 of their major IPs to Embracer. Right, they sold off that. They've made a lot of games that we had this discussion last night that are a niche in the smaller titles, and they have some odd and interesting times to release their bigger games to go head to head with other large household names. So when it comes down to it, do you think this is just an internal problem with leadership over there, Chris, or do you think that they're trying to devalue the company to be acquired?
We're gonna go with the devaluing of the company. It's definitely leadership problem, man. Like when you have them continuously talk about NFTs and doing NFT games, and people kept telling them no, and then they keep doubling down over and over and over again. But also just the expectations, how they finance their games, because. Here's the thing, right? Like a lot of people like to blame the loss of Square Enix because they do PlayStation exclusives, even though Nintendo has more Square Enix exclusives, and nobody ever says anything about that. Nobody ever, complains. Why did Nintendo pay for Octopath, not to come or whatever, right? And I understand those are more smaller games or whatever. People want the bigger games, Square Enix, but if you look at Square Enix history, especially within I'll say the past 10 years, all the way up until now, right? The games that have failed, according to them, the games that have failed the most and the hardest have been their multiplats, right? The Hitman, they said it was a sales flop, the Absolution when it came out. The Tomb Raider games failed to meet expectations. Sleeping Dogs failure to meet sales expectations, which was why we never got a Sleeping Dogs 2. Avengers lost the company a whole bunch of money, right?
Yes.
Available, everywhere. Forspoken, that's technically a multiplat because it was also on PC and things like that, right? And with Final Fantasy, the problem with Final Fantasy is none of their games are the mainline ones. none of them are actually flopping. Like they're actually selling well, right? The problem with Final Fantasy as a series is that it hasn't it's been stagnant because the games are just selling what they've always sold, which is usually around 7 to 10 million, right? And then the most was 7 at like 13 million, but they usually sell around 7 to 10 million, right? And they haven't really grown past that like other legacy franchises like Zelda and God of War that have exploded, right? Final Fantasy hasn't seen that yet, but the games itself, they're not flopping. They're not losing money for Square Enix. Neither is like games like Dragon Quest or the exclusive Nintendo Switch games, right? And it was like their big, Western AAA games or whatever that's been, and then Forspoken, they try to make that, gears towards more like a Western audience, and that studio was never really that good to begin with, anyways. And that's really like their main issue is just that the management, the way they budget they spread themselves way too thin. They have so many projects. Last year they dropped like 10 projects, and 5 of them were like bunched up together. The other 5 was all just bunched up at the end of the year, and they have like one Square Enix game after another, like week by week and things like that, and it was just overlapping with each other, and they just kept screwing things up. So I don't know. At this point, I really think Sony eventually is going to buy them, because if they're losing this big of a market gap or whatever, and they say that they were going to stop their smaller projects and work on more AAAs. In my opinion, their AAA ones have been failing more, besides Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. And the smaller ones have been the ones that people have been receiving a lot better and has been selling, better and whatnot. But yeah, Square Enix, they just have a lot of problems. But you know what? There's a new president in town.
Yes,
who just got inaugurated, right?
Yes.
This past summer at Square Enix, and then ever since that, he decided to bring Final Fantasy 14 to Xbox. And of course, you have to think, if it was on more platforms, it would sell more. But I don't think, like, when people thought Final Fantasy 16 lost $2 billion, there's no way in hell if it launched on Xbox would have made up for that $2 billion. Like,
Right.
No way in hell. They just don't. It would have been like 10 to 15%. And I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Say that, I know there's people that
it just
will
is what it
back
is.
I'm sorry, is this the Xbox audience? This is the truth. They just don't buy those type of games in droves like that compared to the PlayStation Nintendo audience.
Well, Chris, you have to almost piggyback off that. You're right. It's not that they don't buy it. Now they wait for it to come to Game Pass. And if it's not in Game Pass, then they're not going to play the game. So, I mean, yeah, and I also think the percentage of what Xbox is going to bring to sales. I was just having a great conversation with Jago6 in the chat. See, he says it right there, Mooch. Now, if they put it on Game Pass, Microsoft does sometimes cover the cost. It's always the Game Pass thing. These guys need it. You've even seen the developers from Baldur's Gate. You want to help and you want to make a game do well, you've got to buy the game. That's the guy from Baldur's Gate. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. You have to go out and buy the game to support the dev. You don't have to go do it, but they're saying that's how it truly does help the game. Jay, what do you think, Jay? I'm going to ask you a different question. I know when I ask you this question with Square, I know Chris is going to be like, let me get that microphone back. But like, Jay,
I might pass it to him.
You might. Jay, do you think that this is a seemingly good fit now? If the valuation does drop, it stays down for a year. I know that people say there's really no reason for Sony to go ahead and acquire them, but is there a good reason now, if especially with the new president, they don't see a ramp up in revenue?
I know, like you said, a lot of people did say they don't see a reason for Sony to buy them. Because they have a good relationship with them, they're getting exclusive games from them and stuff like that on the platform. I think people had that same kind of feeling about Insomniac Games when PlayStation first bought them, and it was like, well, I don't see what the point is. Like Ratchet and Clank games and Resistance, and what was the other game that they made? Dang, I'm just missing me. Whatever, the other games that they made for PlayStation that were exclusive, like what's the point? They were pretty much making most of their games for them anyway. But I think you do now see the fruits of that labor, where Insomniac Games has like more access to resources and more access to strategies and how they're outputting games and stuff like that. And I think they're benefiting from it. Like I think Insomniac Games has clearly been PlayStation's best studio, at least since the PS5 generation started, with the output and the quality. So if they could do something like that for Square Enix, maybe help them manage more of their portfolio, clean up some of that performance with their output and things like that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that could be a reason for them to go out there and purchase them. But I don't know. That shit just seems like a lot of a mess over there right now. I don't know if they really want to get involved with that. But if they do, I do see a benefit in that area where PlayStation was able to help elevate Insomniac, where they could do the same thing with Square Enix.
Yeah, there's always a benefit and a drawback to it. For me personally, the benefit would be like, well, now PlayStation has now more first-party Japanese studios, which is one thing I've been very vocal about.
Oh yeah, you've been screaming from the high heavens about that.
Like,
ever since Japan Studios went down. You're like, yo.
Well, it's not the fact. I understood why Japan Studio they weren't holding their weight. So I understand why they got shut down, but they haven't done anything to like replace that. You know what I mean? And obviously Square Enix, would do that, but at the same time, it's like. What my favorite some of my favorite Square Enix games in the past couple of years have been like the small, like the AA turn-based, the one on the Switches and everything like that. And I don't think Sony cares. Like, to me, Sony only really cares about Final Fantasy, Square Enix. And I understand why that's the biggest IP and everything like that. But they acquired Square Enix, the other big IPs, right? Dragon Quest. Square Enix doesn't fully own that, right? That people have a misconception. That's the Square Enix. That's not a Square Enix IP. They just have exclusive publishing rights to continue to make those games, but it's owned by another company. So Sony wouldn't. Yeah, so Sony wouldn't get that. There's no way in hell they're gonna get Kingdom Hearts, right? That's straight Disney and whatnot. And the other ones are just like your Valkyries and things like that. That I know Sony doesn't really care about like that. So
Sony want that. They want that foam stars. That's what they want.
Yeah, they want that. Yeah, they want that. Foam stars.
Ooh, nobody wants
the only
foam
thing that
stars.
worries me was like, will these smaller projects Sony not give a fuck about and just have them working on more bigger AAA stuff?
Yeah,
right. That's why when they say that, when I heard the things like, they're gonna not do as many smaller titles and focus more on the big things, that sounds like a Sony move. Like that sounds like something that you would hear from PlayStation these days. But I to go back to what you said, Chris, I do think PlayStation does need a nice steady flow of smaller titles to come out throughout the year. That way they can take a little bit of pressure off of the big AAA games, because those games are only taking more time to make. Like we got a situation this year where we only see like Spider-Man coming from the first party. I know you got MLB, that's a multiplayer, but that's a sports game. And then it's like, what else is there? You know what I'm saying? Square Enix.
I don't understand that. Like, how is Insomniac came out with 3 AAA games in the past 3 years, and yet, like all these other studios, we've been waiting like 5, 6, 7 years for. Like,
yeah.
Jay, they got a nice flow.
Jay, you made a good point there, but like, it's funny. I was thinking with that downtime, some of these smaller games could fill in those gaps. The thing is, Chris is right. Those are the games that I'm not sure Sony really cares about, like the Valkyrie, Elysium, and things like that. I don't know if they care as much because outside of the games, and then Chris just named 3 or 4 of their major IPs, and they don't own full rights to them. So
yeah, that would be a sticky purchase. Like what goes where? What do they keep? Nintendo has some exclusive rights with like some of these games. A lot of things seem like they might have to be like sold off or go to other places.
Yeah,
it would be weird.
That kind of worries me. Like when it comes to that, that's why like I hate this industry consolidation. Like, when it comes to these publishers like this, man, just have them remain independent, man. And obviously if they're gonna go bankrupt and they're on the verge, and it's like, oh, Square Enix is on the verge of just dying and blah blah blah. Then it's like, yeah, somebody should snatch them up or at least snatch up their IPs. But as of right now, but Square has a lot of problems that they got to fix.
By the way, Chris, outstanding point. I do feel the same way you do. I say it every week. I'll say it again this week. I am not for the consolidation stuff at all. If there is a company that's going out and you're going to buy their IP and make things live on, please do. But if it's a situation where you're just buying them to buy them and then you're going to literally shelf these other great IP and not ever get to them, don't bother. Honestly, don't bother. You're doing nothing. You're doing no justice for the gamers at all. So I'm going to move on to another topic real quick here. TC, I want to get you in here. I don't even know. So TC might actually say, pass, Mooch, pass. But TC, where are you on Lies of P? We got to talk about Lies of P. Lies of P, I think, has just been this like fairy tale, and it is a fairy tale. It's based off of Pinocchio. But like, where did this fairy tale game come from out of nowhere? Is this going to be the next evolution of Bloodborne, or is this another Souls knockoff?
From what I'm hearing, it's very positive. People are liking it. For me, I've never been the From games as much. I wanted to get into Bloodborne, but I've been waiting for the mythical remaster that's been rumored for 50 years. But I did play another game that's liked it, that I really enjoyed. So Lies of P, I also played the the demo. I enjoyed the demo. I don't know how the full game is. But yeah, but for me, from what I've been hearing, it sounds really good, and the aesthetic is already up my alley. How the game looks, how that already hits my area. That sounds weird to say. It's what I like.
Pause. Real quick, so TC,
hits the visual. Yeah.
TC, did you play the demo?
I did play the demo. I don't remember if I fully finished it, but I did play a bit of the demo, and I liked what I played there. The only thing that bothers me with some of these games is just the bit of the slow pace. But no. From what I've played, I liked it. It's just there's way too many games coming out for me right now that I'm not in a rush to get it.
Yeah.
But I've seen people very excited for it. That's the problem with this year, and it's not really a problem. It's a good problem to have. It's just that there's exactly. There's so many games coming out.
So you say
something for everybody this year.
So
like,
exactly.
Jay, thanks for saving that, Jay. I got to tell you because I was actually going to go down a different road, but I like what you said. There's something for everybody. This is a game. Lies of P is something that I would like to play, but like TC just said, between wrapping up Starfield, I'm going to play Starfield and give it my undivided attention for the next week, and then I'm going into Cyberpunk 2077, and then you're going into Spider-Man. So, right? So, but Jay, you know this, right? How many times do games come out like Lies of P, right? And then you're like, I'll get to it. You know damn well.
You ain't
getting to it.
And that's the sad part too, because I'm really excited for Lies of P. Like I can't wait to play this game. Like when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is like Bloodborne. Like this is when you ask mom for McDonald's and she said we got McDonald's at the house. Like this is Bloodborne but at the house." And that's why I was like, I'm down for it. Like I've been keeping up with this game since I think like 2021. So like all of the content that's came out, I've watched. It's so many variations with the weapons that you can mix and match with the handles, and then the actual the sword portion of the weapon, and then he has the arm mechanic that you also can utilize and have different abilities and like freaking things that you throw out at the enemies. Like it just looks cool. The only thing that in true From Software fashion that is probably a little bit on the downside from what I'm seeing on the outside looking in is like I don't know how much they focused on telling a detailed cinematic story. It seems like it might fall in that From Software line of storytelling. So other than that, though, I
didn't feel any type of cinematic story when I played some of the demo.
I didn't see that either. Even watching the trailers, it seems like
really it kind of set up to where it will have more of I mean I don't know about cinematic, but have more storytelling to it.
Well, yeah, you would think with the whole Geppetto and Pinocchio storytelling, like that right there is a basis to tell a pretty great story. So that's what I was hoping going into, but I just didn't see much from the promo footage that came out, or the promo content. So I'm not gonna write it off or anything. I just didn't see, that being a focus going.
Yeah, because the
gameplay was amazing.
Because didn't they say that you would have like choices to lie to people or something? I remember that a long time ago.
Yes.
You're gonna be able to lie to people and have different choices to lie to people or whatnot. So.
Right. Absolutely. But I'm gonna check it out. I just don't know. With Spider-Man coming out in a month.
Yeah, it's too much, bro. I haven't even played the demo because I'm still working on other games.
That demo was long too. It was like 4 hours. Like
and I'm a huge Souls fan, but just like other Souls, like that's not from Software, it's just hard for me to. And that's not me. Like other than Neo.
Neo was
Yeah, well, Neo, I don't even consider that. Like, it has Souls mechanics, but it's to me, it's still different. It's still more like Onimusha Ninja Gaiden, like, and then you got a Remnant, but that's like a shooter, and I love Remnant too. But all the other ones is like the Purge. I tried it, I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into Mortal Shell.
Yeah,
couldn't get into Cold Vein. But the Souls, but the one from
the Surge.
The Surge,
yeah, but I'm with.
I couldn't get it. To me, I guess it's because From Software is like, just like their atmosphere and their level and world design is just like second to none when it comes to these type of games that the other ones don't really live up to that. And another thing for me, what's very important for Souls game, and that's essential to it, and a lot of people don't talk about, is online. Is the messaging, is the co-op, is PV, and a lot of these other games don't bring that stuff. So I don't know.
I was gonna say that about the world for for Lies of P because I did start Bloodborne, but I stopped it because of this remaster rumor. But the world of Bloodborne seems like it seems
It was
more
amazing.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. From
Yeah,
what
it was amazing.
the little taste that I've gotten, more so than Lies of P. But yeah, when you mentioned that, I was like, I feel that same way.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I want to do a quick lightning round here. I want to do a couple more topics here. I really want to discuss this. This is kind of a thing here. And I'll start with Jay here on this one again. Jay, the Unity engine debacle has gone from crazy to ludicrous speed. Right? You've got developers, we've got platforms. Again, I got to give shout out to Slow-Mo and Forte. We had a really good discussion last night. I got to tell you, I really, there's a lot of different things that are going on here. What do you think, Jay, when you see this, before you peel the onion back? Do you think that this is something where this is how the model of different things are going to change now that subscription services are a part of the business? Or do you think this is them just being greedy? I think maybe there's something more to this than these guys just being greedy. I think there's a problem. They need to make more money. They're trying to find different things here. Now, a lot of people that you see on Twitter are like, oh, let's stick up for the platforms that are getting screwed. But realistically, at the end of the day, if the platforms pay more, you know who pays more? We do. So the gamer. So it's us that will pay more from things like this. But Jay, what do you think when you saw the whole Unity engine debacle and how there would be charged every time there was a download right now to the platform holder?
Yeah, I'm actually be quite honest. I'm not too well versed on this topic. I did see a few things on the timeline about it, but yeah, I wouldn't be against somebody else hopping in and kind of giving their thoughts and opinions about this. I don't know too much.
Jay, we'll jump back to you in a second then, because Forte literally, I think he did an entire show on this last night. Forte, what do you think when you hear the whole Unity debacle? I mean, is this something, remember we were going back and forth, is this something where we think that maybe we're going to see, of course, you're not going to see Unreal Engine likes to come out and be like, everybody's good guy. Like, everything's free. Don't worry about it. We're just $1 billion company, but things are free. So they're not going to come out and say that. But like Unity might not be doing as well as Unreal and Epic and those folks. So maybe they're looking to scour around. How do we make more money?
Right. Yeah. The biggest thing, I mean, it's hard, man, especially when you got Epic out here saying, even if you're a huge studio, your first million copies that you sell is your revenue. And then after that, it goes to the, 88-12 split or 92-8 split or something like that. It's just hard to, compete with that. And then when you start thinking about just Unreal in general, they're always updating their tools and stuff for that platform. And it's always a consistent thing. So I'm not mad at Unity for making the moves that they need to make. It just comes down to they got to find a way to make their overall platform a viable one inside of this new gaming sphere. Because right now, a lot of developers are shifting over to UE5 due to just the simplicity of it. You're always having up-to-date tools, and the fact that it's a free barrier entry, and then it doesn't hurt you. Basically, you don't have to pay Epic until you make money on your game, like a lot of money on your game. And then they just expect you to pay them on the back end after that. And then there's an even deeper thing if you're on the PC platform, you decide to put it on the Epic store. Then you're cutting even more deals with them at that point. So, hey, well, yeah, listen, as a person that loves Steam, I say the same thing. But if I was a developer and I had to pick between Steam and Epic, money-wise, I would probably pick Epic because I get more of my revenue up front. You're just hoping that your game's good enough for a lot of PC gamers to be willing to try and play on Epic. And I mean, let's be for real, some games have done very, very well doing that. But that's a very, very huge task to try to get people to move.
Don't.
Yeah, most don't. Yeah, the fact most don't. I mean, Xbox can't even get people to play games in Game Pass on PC. They go to Steam and buy games like Starfield, even though they have the option to literally just download it.
Have you used the Game Pass app?
Yeah, I play. So you
use that trash.
I mean, it's not as bad now. It's not as bad. It's not as bad now.
It's gotten better.
It's gotten better, yes. but it's still nowhere near as good as what it is with Steam. Not to mention all, like, for example, Starfield and all the mods that are out there, all the Bethesda mods.
Yeah,
Oh,
None
yeah.
of that shit
it's only on
would be
You
Steam.
can't use that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then that's
Yeah.
gonna stare a lot of people to
That's
Steam.
what-
No
yeah.
Well,
doubt.
that's it.
And the same is true with the
That's-
Fallout games. The same is true with Skyrim.
That's
Yeah.
If you
why.
want, if you and the best way to play Bethesda games is on PC with mods.
Yeah.
Don't even bother
So
with
you know
Game
what I'm
Pass.
If
doing?
I'm
Yeah.
reading this correctly, this Unity thing, they get charged a fee even if the game is pirated.
Any download. So my
Any
thing is Pirate
downloads.
Unity.
God damn. Yeah, because I'm seeing this. I got one developer. I don't know what game this is. It says Aggro Crab, but they said they got a game coming to Game Pass in 2024, and they were talking about the Unity fee that applies, and it says they could take a fee that puts an enormous dent in their income, and it's
Yep.
like and then that's not even talking about other platforms, pirated installs of their game, or even multiple installs by the same user. God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing everything they can to scrap and make as much money as possible. I don't think it's going to disappear or anything because it takes a very long cycle for things like this to kind of fall over. But I mean, if you want to talk about not a publisher, but a UI developer like Epic trying to put people out of business,
Yeah.
this is kind of what happens when you're not backed by somebody like Xbox or PlayStation when it comes to like Slipstream or when it comes to the creation engine or even no drop for Ubisoft or everybody's favorite Frostbite engine that PlayStation that EA likes to put in
EA, yeah.
every game that's not a shooter. That's kind of the only way you can survive when you're getting the bill flipped by these bigger $1 trillion and billion-dollar companies and stuff, where Unity's an open source platform and it just takes people to want to kind of use it, and they got to find a way to like monetize that a whole way. It's just not
Absolutely.
easy now. So they're going to do everything they can right now to kind of soften the blow. But I mean, I think Unity's coming up to the bitter end of what it's going to be.
That's
soon.
what David, I believe his name's Faulkner. He's yeah, I believe that's his name. He does a lot of the accounting analytics, a lot of stuff in the community, and he said that if someone in the chat just said that David had said that basically they're kind of on their way out. I do want to give a shout out to Slow Mo Backslap. Slow Mo says Epic is doing these measures because PC gamers won't buy games on EGS, which is true. Devs aren't taking the deal because you can't make money getting 100% revenue off of nothing. So shout out to Slow Mo.
Yeah, that's true.
They couldn't sell Kingdom Hearts on Epic. They couldn't sell Final Fantasy VII on Epic.
Right. And that's
We'll
telling.
try.
So
well, obviously they just took the bag from Epic. That's all that was.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
just waited out that year.
That's what Gearbox did with Borderlands 3.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing about PC gamers though, they will wait. I give them that, boy.
Yeah, because
will
I got a big ass backlog on Steam. I can wait it out.
And I
What
don't
game was that, Kev, that I forget? What game was that everybody was mad that they downloaded and everybody thought that Epic had installed like a ghost version of the Epic launcher in their UI files, and I think it would Gator Tomb Raider. That's what it was.
Yeah, and it does actually have some Epic files in there. I don't know. It's not the launcher.
It's not the launcher. Yeah.
But it's something. But it things like you have to like go in there and you have to like agree to an Epic user agreement. Like, hold up, we don't rock with Epic. Like I saw that on my Steam Deck. I'm like, the hell, hold on, Epic on my Steam Deck.
Yeah, people got it was a huge problem. Like, being on console, we probably didn't see it, but being a person that plays on PC too, there was huge issues with the fact that people just happened to find the EULA inside of their game for Epic on a game that was installed on Steam that had nothing to do with Epic, and people was like, "Yo, what is
cussing
this?"
everybody out. Everyone got
It's
cussed out.
crazy. So yeah, these platforms and these systems are very, very, very valuable to these companies. And like I said, if you're not being flipped by $1 billion or $1 trillion company, it's going to be kind of hard to like. And plus, Unity's not in the limelight no more. I mean, think about
they're really
if
not,
you think about all of the systems that we've seen. Everybody was talking about the UE5 demo that PlayStation had. That was like really, really incredible when they first talked about it on PS5 and how it's going to revolutionize gameplay on a PS5. That was amazing. Then we found out it was coming to Xbox, and then you just see the evolutions of the Snowdrop engine and the Decima engine. You know, it's just so many different engines out there that are like out there that people would rather try. And if you're on PlayStation, you're a first party studio, why would you use anybody's else unless you got your own,
We got your
you know, your own engine that you work on yourself? Why would you use anybody else's other than Epic? Epic's the only one you'll use outside of your own.
Enjoy that 30 FPS then. Because almost all of these new 30 FPS games that people are complaining about on console, the ones that don't run right on PC too, they're all Unity 5. All of them.
So So
right
here's
now,
one thing that I am going to miss about Unity, most of the more high profile VR games that are coming out these days are in Unity. We got some pretty good indies in the last few years too. The Ori games,
Yeah, the Ori
Cuphead
games
was
were in
in
that.
there.
Pillars of Eternity, I think, uses it as well.
Yep,
And,
it is.
you know, there's a lot of games out there that are using it. Now, how they'll be able to shift or pivot, I don't do that for a living, but I would imagine that's not an easy change. And that could take a long time, especially if they're in development to making a sequel or moving on. They would have to redo everything.
The devs from Slay the Spire were working on a new game in Unity. They heard that they've been working on it for like 2-3 years. They put a tweet out saying, "Hey, due to this news, we're scrapping it and seeing how we can get into another engine." They just said we're just not dealing with it.
Yeah, they're about to screw themselves over with
Unity did do some cleaning up with I think a tweet, because I know I mentioned about like the people reinstalling the game. I guess there's no fees for that, and then like fraudulent, which was probably like pirated installs. They're gonna try and work with them or some shit like
they
that.
said that it's only for the biggest games. You have to hit like a certain threshold. And how are you monitoring these? Like, are you gonna put spyware on my computer now? Are you gonna put spyware on somebody's PS5?
They said
now? Like, how do you monitor that?
They said they have methods of doing it, but Kev, it's shady, right? It really is.
It sounds shady. It sounds like spyware. They're not going to say that because they know they're going to get cursed out by everyone on Twitter. They don't want to get drugged like that. Like they don't want that backlash.
No, I completely agree.
True.
Well, this will be fascinating. I think eventually one of two things is going to happen. They're going to stick to their guns and fold. They're just going to fold and go out of business, or they're going to end up walking this back because it's just not going to work out in the long run. I really don't think so. I think it was interesting when I first saw it. I thought that maybe this was a way that certain developers or not developers, pardon me, but engine creators are trying to make an extra buck, and subscription services are doing things to the industry that we don't quite know yet. We don't know what the fallout is going to be. Pardon the pun. We don't know what the fallout's going to be moving forward. So if these companies are hurting, they're going to try and nickel and dime as much as they can. So this may be the beginning of what we're seeing here from a lot of different ideas that come out from these camps. And we'll see. Some will stick, some won't. I don't think this one will end up sticking because, unfortunately, the product doesn't hold the weight it once did. I don't think. We'll find out. I do have a question for you guys. I'm going to go back to Jay because Jay passed this one off to Forte. Jay, there's a lot of talk about Forza Motorsport's coming up.
Forza.
And listen, I'm on record that I'm not a big, car enthusiast video game, but I will say, since I always thought that Forza did a good job. I know there's a lot of listen, boy, did I never know this till I got a PSVR 2. The GT community is wild. They are hardcore. So you better watch what you say. But I'm just saying, I thought that Forza did a decent job in the past of trying to do their thing, and they did some things that I thought were better than GT. I think they did some things that were worse. The thing is, after playing GT7 on VR2, man, let me tell you, let me just say this. First of all, the visuals I'm seeing from Forza look good. They don't look like they're anything that is going to destroy GT7, but they look good. But once you play VR2 GT7, man, look, short of them giving me a McLaren, I don't see how Forza holds up. That VR experience is the experience, and I know TC's probably playing it right now while he's podcasting. But Jay,
I know people that bought like the whole racing wheel setup just to play that.
I bought a racing wheel, but shout out to J-Dub. Shout out to
For me,
J-Dub.
the problem with and I've said this before because I've never been really a fan of sim racers, but I played Gran Turismo 7. I loved it. But when I finished it, I wanted something else. And I've never really played Forza Motorsport. So then afterwards, I saw that as another alternative. I tried to buy it on the Xbox store. It wasn't there. It was delisted, and I had to go like buy it from like a retailer or something like that. And I got the game. The problem with me and Forza is, and I'm hoping that's not the case with Forza Motorsport, because I'm gonna play. I'm not a fan of Bethesda games, but I'm gonna play Forza Motorsport because I want to check it out. But my issue with it is just the aesthetics. It looks cartoonish compared to Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo has
Yeah.
a realistic look, even without VR. VR just that's an unfair leap. We can't go there because
Yeah, you're
there's
right.
no comparison.
It's not
In
fair.
VR,
It's not fair.
it's like crazy immersion. Crazy. But even on a flat screen, to me personally, and others could have different opinions. And I'm gonna try Forza Motorsport, the next one, but it's just it looks too cartoonish compared to Gran Turismo. But I'll see it for myself.
I've never thought that about Motorsport. Definitely Horizon, but Motorsport, and that I don't know. That's never come across for me.
But not the new footage.
That's what I got. That's what I got from Forza Motorsport 7. That's when I played it, and I was annoyed by I'm like, why did they choose this color palette? Because I sat there and I switched over to GT and then I switched over to Forza, and I'm like, is it my eyes? And for me personally, I noticed that from it, but I'm gonna play the next one. I'm gonna try that out.
I'm going to
Definitely.
try Forza as well, but I do. And Kev, I know why you're shaking your head a bit. I know what you mean, but oddly enough, and I didn't talk to TC about this before the show. For some reason, and again, until I play the game, I'm not going to give any kind of true judge. But from what I've seen on Twitter and what Xbox has posted, it's interesting because the simulation in Forza Motorsport has always been, like you said, so detailed, so real. This time it did look a little more on the cartoonish side versus, and I say cartoonish, don't take that the wrong way, guys. I don't mean it's cartoony. It's not. But I mean, it was the way that they use the shades and things like that and the different color palettes. It didn't give when you play GT7, the way that the sun hits the car and the paint and the way it looks, it just looks more realistic than it does on Forza. Again, I have to wait for final judgment till I actually get to play the game, so I won't say anything more
I think
than
the
that.
term you're trying to use is arcadey.
Arcadey,
right?
yes, thank you.
Maybe, yeah,
Yes.
And even then, because
Thank you, Chris.
Forza Motorsport is supposed to be more like GT, so that surprises me. I'll be honest. I'm probably not even going to get Forza. I tried to set a course. I tried to set a Corsa in VR. I think I had the same moment that everybody else had with GT and PSVR. I'm disappointed that they won't do. The Xbox has absolutely no interest in VR.
Oh, I would
that
love
is so
if
disappointing.
Xbox did VR as well. I would love
Xbox
that.
has the IPs to do VR.
Gears VR, Halo VR. There's the on the PC side. I think they've made Halo VR. Like the mods on PC when it comes to VR, they made mods for everything.
They have Skyrim and Fallout VR. They came out before the acquisition, but they're there.
Yeah, I think
So
it's shout out to Jay.
IPs are there.
Shout out to Jay Swade in the chat. I was talking to Universal OX. It's more of like what Chris is saying. I think that when it comes down to it, Jay Swade said GT7 just got better car models. I think the models look a little bit better. Again, it's from long distance. We haven't played yet. Universal OX Forte, he seems to be a huge Xbox guy. He goes, Forte, what are these guys talking about? We're talking about car models, Universal. Car models.
I'm about VR. I just want Forza to add VR.
I think the car
They
models look
expect
better.
Forte to come in here like, no, Forza is the best and it's better than GT. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying Forza's bad. I think
Forza.
I'm going to play it. I'm going to try it. I'm just saying from what I've seen, I think the car models look better on GT7 right now. That doesn't mean it's the end result. And I also think that at the end of the day, I really think that the VR2, and I agree with TC, it's not fair. So I'm not going to, but the immersion and the way you play the game, you get yourself a racing wheel. I got a racing wheel. J-Dub was like, you got to get one of this. He sent me 2 options. He's like, these are the 2 you should probably get. One of these 2. I grabbed one. I got to tell you, it's great. It's freaking great. It's unbelievable.
Mooch, which one did you get? I'm looking into a wheel too, but I was looking into that Logitech joint.
It is Logitech. Hold on a second. I'll send it to you in the DM. I don't have the actual model number in front of me, but like it's legitimately. I posted pictures on Twitter. But that's game changing though, Kev, because when I first put the headset on and I was playing with the controller, I was like, it's good. It's not great. And
Exactly.
I was like, that's
you
the
get
problem.
that wheel. That wheel, I think, is the last piece of the immersion.
Oh my God, dude! And when you just go off the track, which you're not really allowed to, it's a simulation, so you're not. But as you get closer, I mean, the vibrations on the wheel, it's just like we have right now, where you have those insteps that are like kind of dug into the the ground when you're driving. Now, if you go a little bit off the wheel, your wheel vibrate, your whole tires vibrate. You feel all of that. The immersion, the feel, the look. You look around the car, you can see in the back seat, you can see the cars coming up to your left and right. There's cars in your rearview mirror. It's just. Man, I'll tell you, it's crazy, and that's look at $550 is a lot of money. But if you just said I gotta play VR, if you got GT7, a wheel and VR, which by the way, if you add all that up, that's expensive. You're probably somewhere around the $800 mark. So I'm not telling you to do that, but I'll tell you, boy, you want to have a VR experience? That's an experience. It is an absolute there's nothing like it, and it's hard to go back to a controller and sit on a couch and play GT7 or Forza. It's tough. Right? It is, Kevin. This is not fanboys, none of that. This is just experience.
Oh, no. I think that's just the immersion. I would compare it to when I started playing VR games. I struggled to go back and play on my mouse and keyboard to play like a shooter. Because I played them in VR, and it's like there's first-person shooters are so much better in VR. I don't want to play with the controller. I don't want to play with mouse and keyboard. I want to play every shooter in VR.
Yeah.
Like that with horror games too.
Oh, horror games. Yeah.
Dude, listen.
I played Resident. I don't even think I beat Resident Evil. I beat Resident Evil 7 before. I started playing it in VR, and it was like a whole different game. Like you really feel like you're in that shit.
How do I do that?
Jay, I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna definitely get to it.
Jay,
I love being scared, but that shit felt too real.
Jay, you have VR?
Right.
Jay, you got VR too?
I tried.
I got the first one. I don't have the second one.
Saints and Sinners. I tried the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. I got about 15 minutes in. I'm like, the first one. I'm like, oh. I don't know about this shit.
Yo, Kev, let me tell you,
it feels real, dog.
TC and Kev. I'm asking TC because I know he's played it. Kev, I don't know if you have, but the game that I find to be the Saints and Sinners and things like that, those are scary. But like the Switchback VR game, like the thing with that is those are the jump scare ones, and the whole game is jump scares.
Switchback looks so good, but I don't have any consoles. I only play on PC, so I can't play it. And I kind of want to. I'm waiting for a port.
Oh, it'll be there soon enough. It'll be there soon enough, Kev. So. But let me tell you something. Don't have any family members in the room, dude. You're going to give them an uppercut because you're just like, oh, shit, every 5 seconds. You know? It's crazy as hell, dude. It legitimately is. It's frightening because it's right in your face. And it's every, 10 to 20 seconds. Whereas other games like RE, they have the jump scares, but they're scattered. It's scattered. The rest of it, you could see the enemies coming, things like that. This one here,
this one's constant.
It's deliberately constant, and it's like you're. I'm not kidding you, dude. You sweat like you sit too, and it's crazy.
I was playing the one for the PSVR 1. I forget what they called that one, but I think Supermassive did it as well. Rush of Blood. And I'm sitting down playing it in my living room, and I got the Apple Watch, and my Apple Watch is telling me to breathe, because I'm sitting in the headset and I'm sweating because of all the jump scares and the movement around you, shooting the guns. It's a blast, man. VR is a blast.
And they've improved it. They've improved it visually and performance-wise with a big patch recently compared to when it launched.
Yeah, the patch that came out. I think the patch came out. Was it late July? And it was.
Yeah, it was it was in the summer.
Yeah, summer. And I'll tell you, but Jay, what Jay just said, dude, I did the first 2 levels, and family sitting behind me, they're watching TV, but I got this thing on, and I'm like, I took the headset off, and dude, it looked like I just ran a marathon, and I was like, I'm good for a minute with this. I'm like, I'm good with this. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm good. Like, I mean, the game was fun, responsive, a blast, and scary. And again, not scary in the horror sense. More scary in like the thriller or like the what's the word I'm looking for? Terror sense. It's just because it's right. You're shooting things to the left, and the minute you go to turn around, this thing is like, if you were to put your hand about maybe like, I don't know, a few inches from your face, it's right in your face, and you're like,
Did you play the Blink levels?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's freaky as hell too. But you know what though, TC? I was pissed off because I have this unique ability where I can go without blinking for a very long time. And I did it, right, Jay, I was doing it, and I was like, listen, I'm not going to blink. And I thought if I got past, like, I think I almost went like 2 minutes. Maybe I went more. I don't know. And there's no trophy, dinging. I'm like, dude, well, screw you then. Because you got to blink to get out of the room. So
Right.
I was thinking if they were like, that's a cool trophy. Make it 1 minute without blinking. Most people can't do that. That's a hard thing to do. I made it without blinking. And no trophy pop. So I was a little disappointed with that. I'm glad we could talk about
That would
it.
have been an ultra rare trophy right there. 0.1% completion rate.
Yeah, gold trophy.
Imagine that being the one trophy that keeps you off the plat. You mad?
Corey Massey
Everybody
says,
got to hit up Mooch for the screen share. Like, we passed the controller.
no shit. Honestly, so yeah, that's true. Corey Massey says, Mooch, you gotta play No Man's Sky in VR. I have No Man's Sky on PlayStation. I did not play the VR yet. I heard it's really, really great. And not to go back and forth on this, but the No Man's Sky VR, I don't know if you guys saw this, but it has skyrocketed, and you do have to tip your cap to Starfield. It is legitimately skyrocketed in players and active users on that game again. That is absolutely
Yeah, I think they said it was one of their most active months since around launch or something like that.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So I mean, in all honesty, I do have a couple super chats I didn't get to. Shout out to let me see if I apologize if I didn't get this. Ekim came back and he said, oh no, it was T-Rock. No, I didn't. I read T-Rock's. Ekim says Starfield should have been hyped as general, saying it looks good, would have worked better. Nobody's saying that about Spider-Man 2. Let the games earn it. So Ekim's saying let the games do the talking. He's saying let the games do the talking. Baggins.
That's the logical way to go about it.
It is, right?
Social media isn't logical, so you're gonna get extremes
But I'll
every
give
day.
you the one thing about Spider-Man versus Starfield is that Starfield's a new IP. I know it's made by Bethesda, it's a new IP, but with Spider-Man, it's a sequel. So people are excited because they've played Spider-Man PS4, they've played Miles Morales, and they're like, yeah, give me more of this. I love this. So they kind of know what they're getting into.
Well, that's
Why are we comparing the two in the first place? A game that's about exploration.
No, because they're talking about they're talking about a game being good, and the person said just let the game do the talking, and then the comparison was made. People are not saying that about Spider-Man or something like that. And I said for Spider-Man, people are saying it's amazing, and like they because we've played the two previous games. They're not saying one's exploration and one's a city, and we're comparing that. No,
not at all. But when it comes down to it, Kev, it's just like the restaurant business, right? It doesn't matter how many flyers you get in the mail for a certain pizza joint. Until your friends tell you how awesome the pizza is, or you go try it yourself, the food has to speak for itself. It doesn't matter about the marketing or the advertising. And I think that's what Ekim's saying here. At the end of the day, let the game do the talking. And it's not to sound like Jim Ryan, but the games have to provoke you to play and buy. It's not about the advertising. And that may have been something that kind of, I think, Starfield might have fell into, right? Where it was just overhype and marketing and this and that. And maybe now the game is or is. If you look at it, forget Metacritic. It's like sitting at like a 3.7 or something out of 5 or 3.6 or 3.4, something like that on Xbox for users. It's down to 72% on the user scale for Steam. And that's a good indication because you can't vote on that, I believe, on Steam. And Kev will tell me if I'm right or wrong, unless you own the game. You're not allowed to actually vote on it.
You can review it if you refunded it.
You can review it, but you had to purchase it. Yeah, you can't just go on
you
there
had to
and
purchase
bomb
it at some point.
Right. So I mean, so you have the score dropping on Meta. You have a 72 on Steam currently, and you have even the Xbox user review app is in the mid 3s. So I mean, the game has to do some of the talking as it goes. So shout out to Ekim. Baggins the Third. I'm not going to read the first word because it's just inappropriate. If Spider-Man 2 is great, it's winning Game of the Year. We'll find out, Baggins. That we'll find out. Black Metal Gamer says, what did he say? Of course, he's got to make fun of Bethesda needs to step up their quality 100%. Shout out to Black Metal Gamer. I appreciate that. Ekim's back. He says, Sony should buy Square and give them Bungie deal. Oh.
Xbox buy
still self-publish their own games.
Square Enix Xbox. I just want to see the rage.
I don't see that.
Yeah,
happening.
yeah. I mean, that would be the only. To me, that would be the right way to do it. Is it's like, yeah, they could still make, because the Switch is obviously the dominant console in Japan or a platform in Japan. Especially these Switch 2 rumors out, and none of these third-party Japanese start skipping out on the Switch 2 because it has enough power. Sony's going to be in big trouble, so they're going to have to, shit, they might need to buy Square Enix to lock some of those games out, right? So I don't know. But I think that would be the best course, is to, like, if they buy Square Enix, then Square Enix can still, make games on the Switch. and PC and whatnot.
Sony ain't gonna let you make games on the Switch. Let
That's
Xbox do.
interesting.
Xbox will at least let you still make games on the Switch.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
And the angry tweets will be great.
Well, I mean, they're still letting Bungie make games on the Xbox. So
That's
I mean,
right.
What besides Destiny?
Yeah,
Marathon.
Marathon.
Oh, Marathon. I forgot about Marathon, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, Marathon. That's a brand new game from them, so it's still coming to
Xbox.
Xbox.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Multiplayer.
Did not realize.
That's a good point Chris Righteous makes, though. That may be something that, shout out to Ekim again. And Ekim, I'm sorry, generational, not general. I apologize. I said general. Generational. I was reading it quite fast. But Ekim says, give them the Bungie deal. And Chris Righteous is right. If Xbox is going to keep going out there and buying everything, Sony's going to have to. It's just cause and effect, right? They're going to have to go out there. They're going to have to buy that. And maybe they can just keep it multi-plat. So, yeah. So it doesn't do anything necessarily just for the PlayStation 5 platform, but it does help Sony in the revenue and making some money. And they have to have some games that are under their tool belt. So I kind of get that. Ekim, good on your part. The great Jimmy Harrison says, yep, play GT7. All I got to say, up till 2 a.m. on a work night. Thank God I work from home. Shout out to the great Jimmy Harrison. Jimmy, yeah, maybe I'm the one that caused Jimmy to go out and spend that kind of money. I apologize in advance, Jimmy. Guys, outstanding show tonight. I've really kept these guys 2.5 hours, and I really appreciate it. I told Jay, I said, Jay, 7 to 9, but
no,
Jay,
I told you.
Jay,
I told you. I want to be here for the long haul. So I ain't been here in a while. It's always a great time. So
I appreciate that, Jay. But Jay, you know how us New Yorkers do. I say I'll pick you up at 7. I'm not picking you up till like 7:30, quarter to 8. Might be 9 o'clock.
Oh yeah, at least.
So we're not gonna go out till 11 anyway. So it don't matter.
I say I'm on my way. I just hopped in the shower. That's how I do.
Exactly. So listen, shout out to this amazing panel. Shout out to this great chat. Guys, please hit the like button. Still have almost 400 people here. Guys, hit the like button on the way out. Please consider subscribing. I'll go in reverse order here. The great, glorious Kev. Kev, I know you had a lot going on your schedule tonight, but you did end up hanging out with us. And I got to tell you, it was glorious. So, Kev, thank you so much for being here. But I love when you can answer the call because I love your takes on gaming. I love your takes on PC. And, of course, on just all things rounded gaming, to be honest with you, Kev. Keep up the great work, but let people know where they can find you.
Oh, yes. I'm on Twitter and I'm on YouTube at Glorious Kev. You will find a lot of PC content there. I'm talking games, a lot of VR, a lot of Steam Deck stuff, just kind of whatever's coming at the time. So yeah, you can find me there. You'll find me on the occasion praising Nintendo too, because I really love Nintendo's first party. Hashtag Pirate Unity.
Shout out to Kev. Appreciate that. The great gaming with Persona, by the way, in the chat. He says, great show. Persona, thanks for being here, buddy. Listen,
shout out to Persona.
Shout out to Persona. Persona, tell Jay I'll see you both 11 a.m. Eastern time over on What's Up PlayStation tomorrow morning, buddy. I'll be there with bells on and a big cup of coffee.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding, Kev. Thank you so much for being here. The great Chris Righteous. Chris, listen, buddy, I hope we did you justice, buddy, because I always bring Chris in when we got to talk, and we didn't really get as much into the Nintendo stuff I wanted to. Just with the topics.
Oh no! I mean, long story short, that direct was trash, man. It was like a 4 or 5 out of 10. At this point, I don't really care at this point because I'm just right now. It's just like they already dropped tiers and their biggest game or whatever. Right now, it's just like I'm just waiting on the next system at this point. All I care about.
How's in your door?
I don't care about anything else from them other than the next system at this point.
No, Chris, thank you for saying that too, because I did feel bad. I had a couple of Nintendo topics down, but I did watch the direct today because I didn't get a chance to. I got home late, watched the state of play, and then I went right to doing DPS podcast, so I didn't even get a chance. And I did catch it today, but I'll be honest with you, nothing really crazy. Of course, Mario Wonder, we all want to play. I will be buying that for Call It Nostalgia just because I've beaten and played every Mario game since I was 6. So I'm not going to stop now.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of remasters. I mean, there were a few games like the new Vanillaware game, which I'm excited about because it's Vanillaware, so I know that story is going to be crazy, and maybe like 1 or 2 other ones. But it wasn't nothing too crazy. But I'm not expecting them to go all out with anything crazy until the reveal of the next system, which should be probably like sometime next year, early next year, I would say.
Yeah, I was thinking they did March. They did March for the was it March? They did it for the Switch.
Yeah,
well, no,
March,
that's when they
like 17th.
I don't think they're going to do a March release again. I think they're going to do a holiday release.
Holiday release.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll do a holiday next year, which
The
it's
Switch
smart.
has been in a unique position. They were trying to get that out. They were trying to everybody forget about the Wii U.
The Wii U, hell yeah.
It was
So
on the first that shit
the
out,
Wii
so
was
it was
such a
in a
great
unique
console.
position, but I think this time around they're probably gonna try to release it right before the holidays.
Right, squeeze every last bit out of it that they can. Pulse.
Oh yes.
No, I
Yes.
completely agree. But they hit me in the nostalgia
but-
on that, Chris, because even the Contra game. Listen, I know it's coming out next year, but I'm going to buy that Contra game. I don't give a shit. I'm playing that.
It's just a remake of the original.
I know. I'll take it. Kev, I'll take it. Sold.
But yeah, no man. But shout out to you, man. Great talks as always. Always
Thank
love
you,
coming
Chris.
on, and yeah, man. Y'all just really check me out on Twitter. I do pretty good gaming spaces. I would say so, and things like that. And then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yeah, I'm back on my bullshit with that. So yeah, so it's gonna be all good though. But yeah, shout out to everybody and everybody in the chat, and yeah, great to be back on.
Yeah, appreciate you,
time.
Chris. Always appreciate you and your takes on game. Listen, get one thing straight with Chris Righteous. That man plays games. So, Chris, thank you for being
That's
here,
a
man.
fact.
It is
That's
the
a
truth of the
fact.
truth, and there's no way around it. The great TC was with us tonight. TC, again, looking forward to what you're doing on YouTube, but as much as I don't usually say this, I look so forward to your posts on Twitter. I love what you do. Please keep the excitement up. You keep everything gaming, and it's just, it's refreshing. So, TC, thanks for being here tonight, buddy, but let everybody know where they can find you.
I'm pretty much everywhere at TCMF Games, Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, even on Facebook if you're on there. But yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. It was a great show tonight, and thanks for letting me be on.
Always, buddy. Always. You're always welcome, buddy. Great to have you here. The great King Jay. You guys know him as JMain518 from Good Gaming Podcast as well. Jay, listen, man. It was been a minute, but listen, let's try and make this a shorter, right? A shorter absence. I want to have you on more often, Jay. So
For sure.
you already know you got a open invitation. You already know you got the keys to the city here. We're in New York. We're doing our thing. So, Jay, anytime you ever want to come on the show, you let me know. Say what's up to Kofi. Keep doing what you're doing. Please take care of people that get out of line on Twitter and YouTube. Keep us all in check, me included. So, Jay, thanks for being here tonight, buddy. Let people know where they can find you, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a great show. Shout out to the panel. Absolutely. Shout out to the chat for holding it down. Definitely had a great community in there. A lot of interesting takes and feedback and back and forth. So always a good time coming on the show. It definitely won't be another year before I get back over here. There's always a lot to talk about. So you'll definitely see me back here soon. Of course, you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, JMain518. I got some content coming out. Probably into doing more like the live stream way because my schedule is so busy. It gets hard for me to sit down and put together a video rather than just live stream and talk about topics. So we're over there on the channel playing games and live streaming and stuff like that. So Mooch, again, thank you for having me.
Always, Jay. Always, Jay. Shout out to the great Slow-Mo Backslap, who's a member of the channel. Slow-Mo, thank you so much. It's a good show, guys. Slow-Mo, thank you so much. That truly means a lot. The great Gaming Forte, the other half of DPS podcast. Forte, I think I said DPS. I always promote DPS because even if you're not on the show, I always mention it at the end of the show. Anyways, you can check every week. I always mention you and Slow-Mo.
Oh, I listen every week.
Okay, I want to make sure you know that. Always, because I love what you guys do. I know. DPS is a big part of Thursday nights. So I want to say thanks for having me on last night. It was an awesome show. Shout out to OBM as well. Great to have a little back and forth with OBM. I always have him. I always invite him as well, but he has a tough Friday night schedule. So we'll try to get OBM on again. But Forte, thanks for being here tonight. I know you worked all day. Then you come here and you hang out with us after a long night last night. Let people know where they can find you. And I hope to God you're on next Friday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, first of all, always great to be here. And you're one of the most consistent people. Like I even tell Slow-Mo all the time, I said, man, even when I'm not here, he always shouts me out and shouts the show out. And, that's because we're friends, man.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that, man. And you're an amazing person and keep doing what you're doing. And I always tell you, you do a great job on the show. And it's an honor to be here with you. For everybody else on the panel, Chris, everybody, man, it's been a long time since I hung out with any of you guys. It's been a great time here with you.
Sure.
Outside of that, J-May, my man's, man, makes me laugh every time I miss the old days of seeing J-May with the rest of the crew.
Yes.
I miss those old days.
I know.
For sure.
Anything can happen. It will happen on that show.
That's right.
But
That's right.
With that being said, DPS, like he said, Thursday, 9 p.m. Come check us out. Gaming Forte, YouTube, Twitter, Xbox Live, and PlayStation. Hang out over there. And you guys have a great week and enjoy the games you're playing. And see you guys next week.
Thank you, Forte. Truly appreciate that. Also want to give a quick shout out to BRAP. BRAP had to leave early, take care of a little family stuff. That's Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Shout out to BRAP. And also, That Guy 66. Go over and check him out at That Guy Knows 66 over on Twitter, or X now. Nonetheless, outstanding. And thanks to the great chat. Outstanding. Thank you so much for the super chats, guys. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the likes. And please retweet it. Please consider subscribing if you're still here and you haven't. We do this show every Friday night. I don't miss it unless there's a real crazy, like a vacation or a holiday. And that's only a couple times a year, trust me. So that being said, go enjoy the games. We have a lot to play. Enjoy them. We'll talk next Friday. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Peace out and good night.